We're good? All right, so we are calling to order the November 8th Parks and Rec 2022 Parks and Recs Commission meeting.
Sorry guys, I took that down so we could see everybody's beautiful faces.
All right, so we may be moving this around a little bit. So review of sports fields, fees and field maintenance costs, we might just have to wait for Tim. So we may move that back, but we'll do commissioner updates right now. So any commissioner updates?
The only thing I had the CPC pickleball and tennis court, but I think we're going to discuss that in detail later. So
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a meeting this Thursday with Kaz and Jen Gold from the school committee to discuss more space for Camp T next summer.
I'll probably be there too.
Very good. And I think, am I on that too? No, right? Is that space?
so.
No, okay.
No, this is just, she's the
Oh, okay.
representative
School
of
committee.
the school committee, yeah.
All right, so this.
What I'm asking about this evening is the possibility of putting a memorial at Bay Park for him. Right now, what I'm proposing, and I'm completely open to other ideas, is a boulder with a plaque. I think Alicia has some photos that I sent to her. An example of the boulder and a potential plaque for him. And, you know, I certainly understand that, you know, this, you know, may or may not be something that you're interested in, but I'm certainly open to other possibilities, like there's some benches options pictured there. I did see that there is a bench currently at Bay Park near the playground that has a small little plaque on it dedicated to somebody. And, you know, if this project were to be approved, whether it's a boulder and plaque, whether it's a bench, I would assume all costs, there would be no cost to the town. I would be looking to do this, obviously, winter is just about upon us here. It would be, you know, spring of next year, that I would be looking to, have something put up there.
Yes, Sharon came and asked if this was something that, you know, we could take a look at. I wanted you guys to be able to see, you know, what she's looking at wanting to offer forward as options. So it's, you know, we haven't done something like this in a while. So it's up to you guys how you want to move forward with it, what suggestions you have, any questions and things like that.
Is there any, like, do we have a policy or is there a town policy about memorials and plaques
There's
and
not
things?
really, and we probably should look into that in the
Yeah.
future. But currently we do not. Even the bench that Sharon's speaking of, I'm not even sure when that was put in or, you know, what the process was for that one either.
And who would we take on maintaining it?
So yes, we would have to take on maintenance for it. I think some of these, like the option to be able to do a boulder with a plaque, that's something that there's very little maintenance involved in that, if any. And then, you know, same thing with bench, there's probably a bit more maintenance, but they usually build them pretty good to last for a good long time.
I will say sadly, my dad's bench was just graffitied in a different town, so that's a thing to be aware of, like
Yeah.
who's removing the graffiti, so.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
usually it's me.
Yeah, and with the granite, you know, with the granite boulder or granite bench, for example, in my eyes anyway, it's less likely to be graffitied and might be easier to clean or maintain if that did happen than another type of material.
Who maintains the bench at Kerber?
I know. Like water.
Bench.
I didn't realize there was a bench at Kerber. No, sorry.
So it varies.
It varies.
I'm just wondering how the other ones are, like who's doing it now? Because it's other ones in town.
Right. As far as the parks go, the care and custody is your charge, so it is entirely your choice. And yeah, if we were to do something like this, it's something we definitely would want to affix to the ground so that people are not walking away. If we do decide to do a bench, I don't think they would walk away with the boulder.
Right.
Right. It's still, like you said, in your email, it would still need to have some site prep done to be able to make it, you know.
Correct. Either pinning to the ground or some people do a cement pad, and then have the bench, you know, secured directly to that. You know, there's definitely a few options, and the company that I'm currently been dealing with, Peterborough, Marlborough, and Granite, you know, they're experts at this stuff. They do this stuff all the time. You know, so it just depends on, you know, your requirements or what you'd be looking for to have it, you know, secured to the ground.
Are there any places where it can't be placed or should not be placed? Like,
Well, and that's one of the things I would say, we really would have to go out and look at the site and see. Are you, Sharon, is there an area in the park that you're suggesting that, like a location where we would put?
I'm open to putting it really anywhere, you know, that we can mutually agree upon. So I don't, you know, when I was there a few weeks ago, kind of looking around, You know, in my head, there was a kind of an area, a little ways to the left of the gazebo, if you're looking at the gazebo, kind of between the gazebo and the playground, but towards the back of the park. But again, I'm really open to having it placed anywhere.
So the very back of the park, we usually leave that open because we, for events, have to have vehicles drive to.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah, to the, so that's something we have to figure out.
Yep.
Where it makes sense for it to go.
Yeah, and that would make sense, yeah, to, you know, to find a good location, for sure.
Boulder, someone's gonna have to drive it out there. Place to get people, we have trucks move a boulder out there, right, without any.
Yeah,
security.
Yeah, the company would
Yeah,
have to.
the company.
The company would do all of the installation, so they have, you know, a truck and all their equipment and,
Park.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I mean, as long it's
It's not mud season.
As long
Right,
as
that's
it's
what I'm-
not mud season, yeah, it's kind of better when we're in the middle of the drought because it's pretty much dead already, so you're not going.
Yeah.
Or frozen, but concrete and frozen don't work,
Always gonna get it.
so.
Sharon, what's your preference, a bench or the boulder option?
you know, that's a great question. There's a long story to this project that started as a bench and then went to a boulder. But, you know, I would just be happy to have either. You know, if you folks had a preference, that's certainly okay with me. I guess right now the boulder, because that's what I've been dealing with most recently and been working on. But like I said, I really just so badly want to make this happen for my brother. It was one of his last wishes. And, you know, so I'm happy to do whatever I can to just to get something, you know. I know you have to make the decision that's right for the town and the park, obviously, but if this can happen, then I will be ecstatic, no matter what it is. No matter whether it's the boulder or the bench.
I think if the site suits it, a bench would be really nice, because people would sit there and, you know, and then that might be a really nice memorial. I know personally
Yeah.
that's what my family did for my dad, so I naturally lean that way anyway.
Yeah, and that was my original, like I said, it's a long story, but that was my original you know, selection was to do a bench.
Excuse me. Should we have you and Sharon sort of work out some more details and then maybe do a final vote at the December
that.
meeting?
Yeah.
Is that timeline okay with you, Sharon?
Yeah, that would certainly be fine. And do you folks have a preference on if we did the bench on, you know, whether it be a granite bench, a composite bench, a wood bench, a metal bench, you know, that kind of thing?
I mean, I think just personally, if we were gonna go with the bench, we probably would do something similar to the style of the one that's already out there. Just to try to keep that theme all the same.
Sure,
That's the only thing that I would think of.
sure,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, and I can go out and take some pictures of that bench too, so I have a better idea, remember what it looks like when I was out there a few weeks ago.
and I'm happy to go out there and meet with you if you want to go and, you know, walk the site and take a look at some of the places that could be options.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great. We could certainly arrange that. That would be great.
Is that an actual picture of a boulder that's there, or is that just,
No.
okay, that's a stock photo? Okay.
No, it's
I was
not.
like, I couldn't tell who's,
It's not a stock photo either.
oh, really?
Yeah, no, this is actually a boulder that I've picked out with Peterborough Marble and Granite that they have on hold for me at the moment.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's okay with folks, we'll sort of wait for some more details and then we can take a final vote. I mean, initially, I don't, you know, I don't have any issues with a bench or a boulder or the memorials. I do think that at some point though, we've got to maybe talk about a policy for,
Yeah.
you know, placing things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, let's see what comes back in December and then we can maybe take a vote then.
Sounds good.
Sounds good
All
to me.
right, cool.
Well, thank you, Sharon. I will be in touch with you. And so we'll set up a meeting and we can go out to Bay Park and chat a little bit more about it. Okay.
Okay,
All
great,
right.
Alicia. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
So. Request for office closure on November 25th.
Yeah, so typically we have come to you guys year after year for quite a few years to ask to have the office closed on the day after Thanksgiving. A lot of times the staff are going to see family from far away, so usually it's hard for them to be back for the day after. And we've always closed it because if someone chooses that they want to actually work, they can still work. Or they can choose to take that time off. Interestingly enough, so I put this agenda in last week. So last night, the select board voted to close town hall on the 25th entirely. So that was kind of a new thing. I didn't know that was coming. So they have also chosen to do so. So that's kind of the basic understanding of the whole process. It's not considered a holiday. We do get Thanksgiving off, but the day after is not considered a holiday. So we would either have to use vacation time, personal time, or work, which is also an option.
If town hall is closed, isn't your office closed anyway?
I also have questions about that, but I'm doing this, I know. I wanted to move forward or just for your humor, no. I wanted to move forward and do this because the library is not considered in this decision from the select board because they have their own board. You also are another board as the library is. So just in that case, if we have an additional vote to that, if we are not considered as part of the town, we always have been in the past, but we are now in a different section of the building, so questionable at best, I suppose.
Right, yeah.
Right?
You always had your own entrance, sort of.
Sort of, yeah. It's a lot, I don't know why, it feels a lot more finite with that, the elevator.
Elevator block.
Yeah, it's weird. So there you go. I will.
Any discussion?
Yes, I encourage the closing on Friday, so.
All right, so someone has made a motion.
Second it, ever and ever.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. All right, so we're still waiting for Tim, so we'll push the review of sports field fees and field maintenance costs until Tim arrives. If that's okay with everyone. All right. Should we take up some smaller stuff?
Sure.
Hoping that Tim is right.
Yeah, he should be here around 7:30. Yeah,
Okay, I assume, would you want to do the town meeting review? Is that gonna
I can
be?
do that. Yeah.
Okay,
So I don't think there's gonna be any voting on this, but there's definitely some bigger topics, so to speak. So, let's see here. All right. So there were just three topics that I wanted to review from town meeting. One of them was we have been the last few months talking about tennis and pickleball project that has been fully withdrawn. And we will no longer be doing that project. It sounds that the new path is to work with the school department, fix the high school tennis courts, and then add 2 additional tennis courts where the buses normally are at the high school. So that will save a lot of money. I understand that. So that is the new plan with that, and that's about as much information as I have to offer. I can't really give, I don't know much more past that. It sounds like a conversation was had amongst people and decisions were changed at last minute. Literally like 2-3 days before town meeting. So as the way of small
Isn't-
town politics.
Yeah, I
Isn't
think
that on
it came up during school committee.
It's a
Because
committee meeting.
They were talking about the high school courts are in bad shape and need to be fixed. So that it came up about working as a town to get everything in one fell swoop.
So, who's paying for it and who is controlling the said new tennis courts?
No idea.
Pickleball lines, they're gonna have to line on
So all I can say, so the concern that, I have on our side is that, for the pickleball use, if you've ever been down to the courts, at town meeting or town hall, they are consistently in use, with our pickleball members. So, right now, the plan is to be able to line pickleball courts, and hopefully at the high school, so that we'll be able to have pickleball at that site, until we can figure out a plan for, permanent pickleball courts to be built, in that space. And one of the topics that we will talk about a little bit later is, there is quite likely, the possibility of acquiring Indian Hill Music School. And if we were to be able to do that, having the high school tennis courts and being able to put a pickleball facility perhaps on that property, if the town should be so lucky to be able to acquire it, then we may have a really nice facility. So though it's kind of an interesting reverse of things, it may have a really positive path forward, which could be a really great thing for the town. So that's kind of where we're at right now with the tennis and the pickleball project. Questions, comments, concerns?
So I know at where they currently are, you said there's a shed where the pickleball court
Yes,
supplies are stored, so that would be moved to the high school then?
we would have to move, or come up with some sort of,
There are sheds there, I don't, there's story.
I don't either. I do know there is a shed, like a kind of like a building size down there, but that's for the sewer system. So, yeah, we have our little shed, we can move down there. We also have a bigger size shed that's behind town hall that's, eventually movable as well. So, we have some different options.
Maybe another topic for the meeting with the school folks,
Right, exactly.
just to see where that stands.
Right.
And it sounds like we were a meeting, I don't know, Steve Mark or somebody to see where that's
Right.
in their process.
Yeah, because I think it was just this is a good idea, let's move forward with that, but the funding of it, all of that was not even really discussed. It just,
Access.
where
All of this.
all of that stuff was not
Timeline.
discussed.
Yeah.
None of it.
Like, does the high school, like, phys ed classes use those tennis courts or?
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
Good.
I was just gonna say, if you guys wanna go jump back to the sports stuff, cause I don't want the guys to.
Yeah.
You don't wanna hear us talk about all this other stuff all night.
Hey, 3 kids, Alicia.
That's what this
This is
great.
much better.
Riding kids around all afternoon.
He's like, take your time. All right, so let's. Oh, God, sorry.
Yeah, I think making sure that there is access for
Right.
the public if we're gonna, now that we're at least planning to tear down the existing courts and move things, that if the high school is a solution, we need to talk to the schools about public access.
Right.
Making it clear that there's our public courts if that's the case.
What is that lot like? Is that like a student parking lot, like right in front of it where the
Yeah.
tennis courts are, like
It's
student parking?
bus.
It's bus
and
and
over,
like underclassmen parking or something.
It says like,
over.
it's like a overflow lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I think the only concern is that we go through this whole thing and then, well, you can't use it during school hours.
right,
Would be the,
right.
you know, just moot at that point. Why do we even do this?
We can come back. Just
Okay.
remainder of that topic later.
All right.
All right, so we'll put on the back burner the rest of the town meeting review. We'll head back to fees and maintenance.
Okay.
Costs.
That'll pop up. So one of the things that had come up at our meeting was just a review and overall review of what has been accomplished at Kerper so far. So we did close Kerper Field for this fall to be able to get it back to a repaired service, if you will. So, you know, things that were requested of the highway department, they have completed all of those things, which were repairing areas that don't have grass at all, clay seeding, aeration of the field, top dressing, level it, and fertilizer applications. And we have been watering it astronomically, which we'll get to that in a couple of slides because that costs a lot of money. So overall, without water, the highway department put in about $9,500 to recoup that field. And it's looking pretty good. I didn't get a chance to go out and take any photos of it, but if you get a chance to go by it, it does look quite beautiful. So they've done a good job. Any questions about that?
So it's gonna be back up and running for spring. That's the,
We don't know yet. So what we discussed was if the high school is still operational, then we will continue to keep Kerper closed and continue to operate out at the high school until they actually close it to do the sewer work. But if they do close the high school, then we would, yes, go back onto Kerper, because otherwise we would have a really big issue with trying to get everybody out on the field come springtime. So, yeah, we need that space. And it should be, I mean, the roots have taken pretty well. Do you think so, Tim?
I mean, we'll see how that
I know.
after the winter and everything else. It has been nice. It's been 70 degrees and, you know, the growing season
It's
was
growing.
extended a little bit,
Right,
all of those things. However, the reason that we're doing this again is because the last time we did it, we didn't let the field sit long.
right,
I'm putting people right back on it. You know, the bare spots and everything we had were where the roots had taken. So, you know, rather than repeat history, it would behoove us to keep it closed for the spring and let it ride for a full year, just like we did to the middle school field, and that field came back and it's playable, and we haven't had, you know, the issues that we've had historically. So the best option for us is to keep it closed through the spring season so that we don't damage the surface again.
but we may not have the option.
And do we have any more firmness on the sewer projects?
No.
Firm as jello.
Hey, some of those, you know, the jigglers, whoever those, you can pick them up. Yeah.
The plans are there, they're just jiggling around.
I agree.
Okay, so that's still
Don't know.
TBD.
TBD, yeah.
I guess when, yeah. Trying to think what, yeah, like when we have to make decisions about. Is the field gonna get used or not, and when will they decide when they're,
I mean, honestly, I would say as long as the high school is open, then we're gonna use that. And if, once we get the word, you know, I hope that they would give us a little bit of a heads up and not just go and like put diggers in. That we would be able to make a plan to say, you know, highway, well, we're gonna move and paint the fields over Kerber, and we're not gonna be using high school anymore.
I mean, I think he said like, there's a lot of pieces that have to sort of all fit together very, you know, tightly before they would even think about it. They didn't know. I forget, it was like different, you know, things that they had to,
It's really the funding mechanisms that they're waiting.
yeah.
Before any of that security.
maybe review at the pump site or something?
So
Lots of things.
Yeah.
So,
I can check in with Nick again and see. if
let's
he
keep,
can.
keep a close contact on
Okay.
that, so we know what's going.
Can do. All right, so next part was just kind of to review sports fees. So before fiscal year 21, we had a very archaic system that we did away with. So we've changed the whole process in about 2018. We started doing all the switch over. So the numbers that I have on here, I threw fiscal year 21 in, but it's kind of pointless because that was COVID, right? So the only group that was able to run any sort of sport was soccer, and it was heavily modified when they did it. So the numbers on that one, I would just say throw that out as junk because it's just an obscure data point. So so the next piece of it that we have is fiscal year 22. So that would have been July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. So this past June prior to that. And then currently we are in fiscal year 23. So the numbers in that will be from July 1st of this summer forward to present. So for 22, we ended up spending $26,318 and some change for the entire year. And those costs that we have to cover through those fees are water bills. So to cover irrigation for the fields, porta potties, athletic paint, and any sort of equipment costs. And equipment costs could be anything from like we had padding on the bottom of the scoreboard at Kerper to buying new bases for softball, baseball, any of those things would be. We bought the turf tank, so that was the awesome robot that lines all the fields. So all of those things would be within that equipment cost that have to be covered. So from July 1st till present, we have currently spent $28,404. So we've definitely spent a lot more. And I would say the culprit most definitely is water. The other is porta potty costs have gone up a little bit. I think we went from, it was $99 a month up to $110. Yeah, and then some of them, some of the sites have more than one porta potty on it. And we haven't even spent any money on equipment costs yet. So, you know, we're only 4 months into an 8 months season, and you know, we've spent over what we spent for last year. Again, mostly because of water.
Is the surf tank a lease or is the?
It is, so I want to double check because that first year that we got it, we did pay half of it. So highway paid, it ended up being like a little bit over 10,000. So we paid 5,000, they paid 5,000 for easy math. But when Chris left, I feel like he said we needed to put away 5,000 every year. And I don't know if that pays for updating the computer for it, or I don't know. So I've asked that question. So I'm hoping we don't have to pay that 5,000 again. But I want to just acknowledge that there's a possibility that we may have to.
Not those at least.
Not included in the 28, was the two $5,000 charges from this year, correct?
What are you talking, sorry,
When we were looking at it earlier, there were those two $5,000.
you were looking at, no, you were looking at the requisition and then the actual payment of it. Yeah. No. What were you gonna say? Sorry,
I think that thing's $40,000.
40,000? So Chris paid it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the number.
Okay, so then, yes, we are spending that money now. All right, so then we have the collection of fees from the last couple of years. Again, fiscal year 2020, I would just, or I should have put, sorry, I did those dates wrong. It's fiscal year 21 on that one. Should throw that one out because that's COVID year. So the full year's data that we have, we collected $19,810. And I have them split up in between the different sports organization. Brigade is a outside of the community baseball group that comes in and uses the high school fields. And then, so this year, we have collected $23,235. So just with the calculation of the expenses, sorry, let me go back to that. So last year, we were under by 6,500. And right now, currently, we're under by 5,000. I call it 170. So this is just kind of a reoccurring theme that we're seeing. So the $15 per person per season is not covering the amount that we need to cover the water, the paint, equipment, all of that stuff. So that's kind of, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just so everybody knows too, that fiscal year 23 number, we're looking at, $2 to $3 grand a month, April, May, June of next year. Depending on when we can get started, might even back into March. Right. No, just for maintenance. So this is just through now. So
Right.
you're looking at another potentially $12,000 to $18,000 worth of maintenance for this year. So that deficit is only gonna get greater for this year.
But we haven't properly collected from lacrosse, right? Or baseball, right? Like who's
So
making this,
for
who's the spring
fall,
sports?
yeah, for fall, we haven't done that yet, so we do need to get the numbers to process those invoices. But I mean, it's still.
Yeah, I know it's not gonna cover it,
It's
but
not gonna
we,
cover
right, so lacrosse and baseball would still be.
Everybody, we have fall and spring
Oh,
revenue come
okay.
in still.
Okay,
Yep.
What are we projecting roughly the expenses are gonna end up being? You're looking about 40?
Well, you have 2 to 3 grand a month. And that's gonna be depending on when you open, it's the earliest you're gonna get on there is mid-March. So March, April, May, June. So you're looking at anywhere from 2 to 3 grand a month for 4 months.
And
Wait,
depending on what the water is gonna be like, it could potentially. go up.
So somewhere between 40 and 50.
Correct.
Yes.
Or just-
Yes.
And just based on last year's numbers for the revenue numbers with sports, how much additional was coming?
Additional, like a surplus?
Well,
Not-
those-
Beyond the 23 you have there, is there spring revenue coming or other revenue coming?
To fill that,
Just to what's the
What's
revenue for the year?
for all,
Estimated.
right?
right now, $15 per person per season, right? So the total amount of kids that we had, last
So I guess
year.
the
Yeah.
23 in revenue, was that from last spring sports, fall sports? What was that?
So that would be from last spring. Yes,
Okay.
so that's the money that was put in there from last spring, yeah.
So the remaining amount of revenue that we haven't realized is the fall.
Fall
revenue.
and going into spring of this year too.
But if we don't invoice until after, we're not gonna see that. So
Correct, you are correct. Yeah, we have tried to be a little bit better about that. But that, yes,
So, yeah, seems unlikely that we're gonna get.
So just, rough numbers, when we did these figures, we're averaging a little over 1,000 participants. What was it, about 1,000, 1,200
so last year was around 1,400, a little bit over that, yeah,
per
total.
per season, give or take.
For like the whole, like all sports for both seasons,
Right.
yeah.
So. Ballpark, another 15,000.
You have about 600 for soccer, you have about 300 or 400 for baseball, and you have 40 or 50 for
45,
lacrosse.
yeah.
That's all we're getting now that lacrosse has moved to. Lacrosse isn't really putting any of the bill anymore because they've moved most of their games to alumni. You just have girls lax playing on the soccer fields, and then boys youth lax playing on the middle school. So you should just have, like I said, it's averaging right around 50.
Okay.
But Aaron is trying to grow those programs out as well. Aaron's
Different
doing
Aaron.
Different.
Just in case you didn't know.
You look a little stressed there for a second.
I was confused.
Okay, so I mean, just trying to get a sense, so we're probably looking. At
It's because we don't have the numbers. I was trying to do this all day
Yeah.
and I don't want to make a guesstimation on anything. I don't feel comfortable doing that, especially with the way clearly the economy is going and the prices are inflating. It's just, yeah. We know that it doesn't cover is essentially the point.
Yes.
Yeah, but I guess we gotta have, and I know it's gonna be all guesstimations, but like what our shortfall is going to be, right?
Right.
So
So
your estimated shortfall right now,
with
right?
between,
And I spoke to Norm and I called Aaron when we had run these numbers earlier. So what we're looking at is we need to get somewhere between $25 and $30 per player in order to close this gap. So what you're looking at is had we put in a schedule of fees when we had originally turned over all of the accounts, zeroed everything out and gone to this $15 per player, you would have looked at, a little over $3 a year increase, which isn't as hard to swallow as going up 10 or 15 right now, all in one lump sum.
Yeah.
Right. That would have helped us get to the point where not only were we covering costs at the time and not deficit spending for 3-4 years now since 2018,
yeah,
but it would have also put us in a position to potentially have a little bit extra to do, these projects as they pop up as we need them. So, right now, knowing that inflation is super high, cost of everything is up, not knowing what our per number of actually participants are, we can assume that $25 is still going to get us to a deficit, somewhere between $2,500 and $7,000 based on the current climate, which those are the, what Alicia just explained. Hopefully all of that's going to start to come back. Right. And then that gets us to a level place. Where we should probably be is right around 30 so that we can get, that money coming in. We close the gap on our deficit. We can, hopefully get to a zero place and then even get to a place where we have a surplus that we can start, having the money available to do these projects, not have to wait and, come up for a schedule of fees that, makes sense in the future. Does it suck that it's like, hey, we need to do all this at once? Yes. It's just like everything else that we've done where it's like, hey, we need to be more responsible in the future and say, okay, we're going to go up X number of dollars a year based on what the conditions are. Going back to since all of us have been here, Alicia's been here longer than I have, but the conversation's gone, since we've been here, is that, we don't get enough money from the town also for the fields, right? So while the user groups should, support paying for the fields that they're using, at some point, this is our chance to say, okay, well now we've tapped the user groups, we've got everybody to a reasonable number. And if you look around in the surrounding towns, it's very reasonable. It's, right kind of in the lower side / middle of what other towns are paying for, per use fees for their players. At that point, then, that's the time, if we're still not cutting it based off of whatever those factors are, that, we all have to get together and go to the selectmen and, as the political board here and say, hey, it is time. We've asked the youth organizations to front a little more and to do these things, and we're still running the steps. Because ultimately, this money comes from programming, and it's money that could be spent to send more kids to camp or lower our ultimate costs or do all of these things in the department that we're going to talk about later that Alicia has that suffer because we're covering this expense.
And the 9,500 was not in.
I did not add that into that, this year's
Okay.
amount, no. So the point of that, of not including it, is that if we had a surplus, we could be able to, so we're lucky that highway had the ability to pay for that. They don't always have that money at the end of the year. So they just happen to be able to have enough and the staff to be able to, complete that project. But if you want to guarantee it, you need to be able to have that money to do it. So, if we had a little bit of a rainy day fund, so to speak, you would have the ability to say like, yeah, we can see there's already damage done to this field. We're going to fix it like immediately, or, God forbid that we'd have to like shut down a field mid-season. But if we had to do that, we would have the ability to put, all of the effort into it. But the hope is that we will be able to care for those fields well enough that we will never be in that situation ever again. Because when I first started 8 years ago, we were really on that precipice. It was bad.
So we raise it to 30. What do we do next year?
Leave it. I mean,
In
I
my
think we need to
opinion-
do calculations.
In my
Because you guys
opinion,
just
you
said we
raise
haven't
it.
done it in 4 years, and now we're talking about double. Shouldn't we be doing baby steps every year then, to prevent a doubling of fees?
I think at this point, if you go to 30, we have to, yes, we should come back to this discussion next year to see where we're at, but we also need a normal year of everything to kind of actually see where we get that.
The other thing is that is the water bill because we're,
There was no rain this year.
well, okay.
That's why the water bill is.
Okay, so,
Real high, yeah.
but you're also reseeding a field, renovating a field is. So was it, I mean, how much of the water was general maintenance, how much was part of the renovation?
I mean, that's fair. I would say a majority of it come from Gerber. So yes, that would be part of that renovation, but they also should be watering the fields. Not, we got to a place where it was so conserved in the past that you could actually go out and see only green at where the irrigation heads were at. I'm not kidding, like that's literally where we came from. And we can't be that stingy,
Yeah.
but do we need to pull back some? Yes, because obviously that was needed to be able to get the system to grow.
Right.
So it shouldn't be that heavy in the future. Additionally, there is talk about trying to put in well systems to be able to put the irrigation on that well system in some of these locations, which would mean we don't have a water bill.
So I'm also a little concerned, given the fact there was no rain, we were in drought and no water conditions all summer. How are we putting that much water on?
So the town is not, what's the word I'm looking for?
The town doesn't have to.
Town is exempt from
Exempt.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, I grass up.
In the height.
Unfortunately,
In the height of the water ban, we were not watering.
Okay.
That was also part of the detriment of,
I mean, clearly it's gonna hurt the fields, but
Yeah.
we're
if
also-
anybody went out, looked at the field, and looked like these tables for most of the year.
yeah,
Many places did.
yeah.
This is one.
Uh,
Sponge.
I mean, I guess like, so I agree, like, I bet corporate is taking up a ton of that watering because you put you're recovering the field, you're watering it constantly.
Yeah.
So like, I think we have to take that into consideration. If the fees are $15 now, I think we have to, 30, I think would be a hard pill to swallow. I think maybe we go to like 25 and sort of see where we're at, and then the year after go to 30 if that's really what has to happen, if we're sort of not making, strides to get to the point where we need to be. But that's just my ramblings.
So with that statement and to, my answer to Aaron earlier, it was 25, you are gonna come up short this year. But we need to let that ride because right now you have COVID numbers and you have inflation / crazy expense numbers. So yes,
And a ridiculously dry year, which may or may not continue.
Right.
Well, and don't we have a surplus in the department in general?
of what?
No,
No, there's no,
That's the whole thing we're trying to get away from is using department
Department
funds
yeah.
to fund fields, which aren't even correct property.
They're owned by the school or Light and Water.
That's why we're trying to get
But-
to a balance by the
I
year.
don't know that, they're still, in my eyes, they're all still town. But it's all still town property.
Yes, but right now, when you send your children to camp, we're using that money to pay for the watering of the fields rather than reinvesting that back into programming for other people.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, because then providing usable fields for town soccer, lacrosse programs is town program.
It's not town programming though, because we don't run the.
Well, they're using the fields, like they can't do it without our fields. So our fields are the equipment, we'll say. We're providing the equipment so that they can do it, so. But I mean, that's a discussion for another day, but I think.
I don't see losing any participants for $30.
What's that?
I don't see losing anyone for a $30 fee. Is the other reality of it. Between 25 and 30. No one's gonna walk over $5. I would. if they
And
do.
the reason that we're trying to have this discussion now is that I know the sports leagues are trying to get their rates out for the next year, or so that it can next season, to get those registrations open, so. We see you, Brad, that we just gotta hold on a second, so we have public input.
Thank you.
So, sorry, I lost my thought there. Brad,
We
you're so
want to
distracting.
we want to come to a conclusion so that the leagues can.
Correct,
Yeah,
thank you.
share their,
Yeah.
or can make their plan.
Correct, yeah.
I'm gonna chime in, soccer registration's already begun, it's already out there.
Are they? Okay,
Early bird feeds already been sent out there, posted, sent out. Those are all out there.
That's our biggest group, right?
Respect.
no, it doesn't that.
Should we hear from the folks from the youth sports folks that are here?
Yep, that's your purview.
All right, so let's get his hand right. I can't see anything.
Brad, we can see your hand. All right, you ready to go, my friends?
Yes, I am.
All right.
So bear with me. I'm in another meeting. That's why I'm not there, and I'm zoomed in. So one of the things, and Tim, I understand what you're saying about the fees and how you're in a deficit, but you don't have any concrete information yet, is what it sounds like, because this year's watering bills were, kind of wacky because we didn't have the rain that we normally get in the summer. Also, you spent a lot on watering corporate to get that back so you could do the work. One of the things I'm going to say is we open registrations. We usually open registration end of October for youth sports for the spring, because we're trying to get those families that are still in the sport and be like, hey, we open registration so that they can register. So we don't have the budgeted number of what if you guys change it. So that's really going to take a hit on the youth sports. I agree, $15 is not a lot of money for the amount of work that goes into our fields in Littleton. But if you go to other towns, our worst fields are better than most of their best fields. That's on the softball and soccer side. So we do put a lot into our fields, which is great. And yes, I think you should have an increase, but is there any chance we can wait till next fall to do it? So, because I've already budgeted and opened based on the $15.
Brad, we already had this conversation though at the sports council meeting a few weeks ago, when we said we were gonna discuss it.
Yeah, so at the sports council meetings, we didn't know if it was going to be in the spring or the fall. So I'm hoping we can do it in the fall.
I mean, with the
And
numbers
then
that we
do-
have right now, I don't see how that's possible.
Okay, so so what I would propose is do it in the fall, but do one jump versus doing two jumps. I think that'll be less impact on the towns, on the sports clubs, because then we can actually budget for how much that's going to cost us. Because if you go from $15 up to 30 in a whack in the season, I have 600 kids. That's going to add another $9,000 onto my budget that wasn't budgeted in at the beginning of the fiscal year, which was in July. So,
Brad, when did you guys open registration?
last week.
So, we've been talking about this for probably about 3 months now, and in the October meeting, it was very clear that this was going to be this topic of a discussion at the November Park Commission meeting. So, seems like you guys jumped the gun by a week, and this is something that needs to be kind of taken into consideration. And we can't have the largest group just kind of. When you say the fall, I'm assuming you're talking about next fall?
Yeah.
Yes, next fall 2023, bringing us up to the $30 that you feel that we should be at, which I agree, $30 isn't a bad number.
From now.
I'm sorry?
Is there summer programs?
For,
Not for you, not for
volleyball.
soccer.
Not for soccer.
yeah. So this upcoming, this current fall, you would only
Yeah.
be charged the $15, right? Yeah,
Yes,
but moving forward into spring, whatever the park commission decides, that's what you
Yeah.
guys would have to be charged.
okay. Is there any way we can keep it at the $15? Or maybe instead of going up to 30, going up to 20? And then going a bigger jump in the fall of 2023 to a $30 jump? Would that work in your budget?
I mean, according to the calculations that I've done, no, it does not work.
Okay,
So it's either gonna have to be 25 or 30, which is up to the park commission.
okay,
So it would go into effect in the spring,
Spring.
correct? So
Correct.
this fall.
Cause I don't, that's not
Well,
fair
it's all
to do
done, I
that.
guess, yeah.
Yeah, that's not fair.
So it would start, yeah.
I mean,
The new
to the
calendar.
point, and then I led with that, you can do 25 and know that you're gonna be short your number. We're probably gonna be short at 30 right now anyway, and then say, hey, next fall, we are gonna jump the other 5. That's up to you guys. You guys can say 25 and 5 next fall, you can do that. Either way,
Okay.
right now, the numbers that we're facing, we know we're gonna be short.
okay,
That's up to you guys.
I mean, I would think that, I think 30 gets us to still a deficit, correct? If we,
With these numbers.
with the current numbers that we're working on.
Is participation similar spring and fall?
Right now it is, but that's something that we might have to talk about depending on when the high school fields come online.
Right.
Right now, we made it work and we did a great job at getting everybody out to where we needed to be, and everybody in every organization should be applauded for the teamwork that happens. However,
We lose.
if those two fields come offline and we're, either way, we're gonna be short one field.
Yeah.
When those fields come offline. We might have to have that conversation down the road for a couple of years of, do we need to throttle back on something, but that's not here or there, and that's another hot
No, I was
topic.
trying to. So what we are seeing right now is roughly 1,000 participants per season.
No,
Well,
not quite.
no.
I would say, so the numbers from last year were about 1,400 for the full year.
Okay.
For all programs.
14.
Your biggest participation is your spring. And our largest numbers that we ever saw were this past spring. You saw almost 600 from soccer, 598 people. You saw 400 and what for baseball?
Oh, for spring,
But
I had 150.
was 150 for that. And then we saw the 50 for lacrosse. That was our biggest user group at one particular juncture.
I mean, the only thing, so participation's going up, right?
Yeah.
The town of growing. Yeah, so with the per capita, I mean, usage is gonna go up, where it's gonna go up.
Right.
The projections could be basing it off last year, based off water usage. Hopefully, we don't have that same thing in a usage in the per capita participation goes up, right? You cover some.
And there is hope that if we can get the well system worked out, that will take a huge chunk of that out, which would be amazing.
So just to make this number easier for everybody, if you go back to the year that we do know, when water wasn't skewed and everything else, which was last year, okay? Had we charged $19 and change, we would have broken even.
Yes.
You would have covered your $6,500 in that fiscal year. Now knowing where everything is, that's where that base number of 25 is. And knowing that we have this big water bill, that everything that we're buying is costing us 8 to 12% more.
Yeah.
The $30 number is now where we have to hit. So last year, had we charged, it was like 1986, we would have covered our $6,500 debt. But now we're in a position where the number's 20 to 30. So that's a non-guessing number. That's if you divide the 6,500 out of our users last year, that was the number, 1986, I think, to be exact.
I was gonna say, I just feel like, I think we know the two numbers. I think what we're hesitant on is, feelings over necessity, right? We want to try to have a number that doesn't make people go what, but there's also a number that if these, and the general public knows what this fee goes to, right? They know what this money's for.
Right.
And, I think we need to find a number that works. Whether it's at 25 or to 30, to me, I would say it is what it is, right? If it's 30, it's 30, and we can try to budget, we can try to soften the blow. But if it's 30, it's 30. We just need to stand behind our decision, and
Right.
if that's what makes it work, and that's what makes, the funds where it is. And then after that, I think we do have to address it each year,
Yeah.
right? Not wait every 3 or 4 years, but
Absolutely.
there's a necessity here. That number, it sounds like it's 30.
Yeah.
Again, some of the numbers of the water, they, skewed, but
Right.
I think that's where we are, and then, if that's what we need to be, then that's what we need to be. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do we pay for maintenance at the high school, the fields? Like,
Yeah.
do we pay for that too?
Yeah.
So if
All
those come
grass fields.
offline,
All grass fields.
that's less maintenance cost, right?
I mean, we still will have the same amount of fields, so we have to figure out how to make it work, right? Because, even if stuff's coming offline, then we're gonna have to try to find some other space to do it, but
You'll be short one field, Kevin. If we bring Kerber back on,
Yeah, so it's what you
ultimately we'll
down.
be short one field.
and we've talked before about like, do we put stuff out at Bay Park? Do we, put
Just for
soccer
the
fields?
construction, Kevin.
Huh?
Just for the construction.
Yeah,
Even the.
Yes, not a permanent thing, no, but like,
yeah.
we've literally looked at everywhere we could potentially put something else just to be able to deal with the field shortages. So we'll make work with what we got. We always do. So that is it before you all. You got anything more?
No, I mean, it's the hits to Brad, right?
Yeah,
Because, you
they
know,
have the most,
he's got to absorb it,
right,
right? And we're gonna pass it along.
right,
So it's not, right? And how do I spend it? Right? Cause I'm paying the fee,
right,
right? Let's say, what can I do? The fees went up, right? The problem is, and I don't think like you said, right? I don't think $15 is gonna break. We're not gonna lose 100 kids because it goes up $15.
Yeah.
But. You know, I mean, the problem is this is a big job.
Yeah.
Everybody realizes it.
Yeah.
If we had done $5 a year for the past. It's a moot point.
I hear you.
So that's the problem, right? And it's all projections, but it's we're not gonna plow it back, right? So if you guys are off on your projections, what happens? Then the buffer goes up like you were saying, right?
I don't understand.
Then we have a repair budget for.
Yeah. It all, and that's the thing that I've tried to be clear about at the beginning. Any fees that are put into this are always gonna go back to maintain the fields. It's never, yes, are we using money out of our budget from programs to pay for fields? Yes, but it's not gonna reverse the other way, ever. I don't feel good about ever doing something like that.
To Norm's, to your point though, I think your question is like, it's their purview. If you wanted to come back here and say, hey, you guys have a surplus, you can do that the same way.
Yeah.
If these guys said, hey, we have a surplus and there's a recession going on and we feel like
We're gonna lower it, yeah,
something that could be done.
absolutely. And that's part of that give and
Yep.
take, you know, of having that relationship, especially with the sports council.
Yeah, I mean, it's the message, right? It's when I go up $15 on my fees, people are gonna want an explanation.
Yeah.
Tell them.
So what's my explanation?
Yeah,
Exactly what we just said.
yeah, tell them exactly what we just said.
We haven't increased, what we should have done, exactly that. We should have gone up to $3 a year since 2018 and we haven't done.
We have fields that need to be repaired and we have all those other things.
So that's what, I don't wanna be in the same position to go back to my membership, right, and say. Next year, that an estimate is on, right? That's the only thing, like, you just gotta be prepared, right, because when I pass it along and there's an explanation.
Right.
Who looks bad, right, all of us look bad if you pass it along, right? And you say, we haven't done it, well, why didn't you do it? Well, we just didn't.
Okay.
You know, so you pass it along, you pass it along,
Yeah,
right?
and that, reiterates why every year we need to increase it. So
Right.
that this is, they're used to it. Keep an eye on it.
Yep.
It's a buck.
All right. Any more discussion? Any other public comment?
Brad's still there. What was the process? He wanted to do 25 and 5.
He wanted to do 15.
Anything that we could do to reduce
Stayed at 15.
keep it
Till next
closer to
fall.
15 for the spring.
That's not a reality.
Well. And this,
How many registrations have they had since they? Brad, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Brad, off the top of your head, do you know how many registrations in number one?
How many registrations, what?
How many registrations have you gotten in your early bird registrations?
I haven't looked. I can get you that number tonight. We usually get a bunch of them though. Because once we open it up, we usually get a big, wave of people registering.
For Pee-wee,
Yes.
30 for under 6.
I'd have to look. I'm not at my computer.
11, 7, 8, 4, 2, 2, 1. 3,
Less than 30.
40, did something 30, 40. But that's
But just started.
just under 10%, so.
I mean, you could,
I mean, we could say from,
those
you know, October 8th on. But
November.
November, thank you.
We could say from October 8th on,
Yeah,
but that's-
or October 8th, you know, from November 8th on, but I don't,
or
I mean, I don't know
the
how
year, or.
we validate that, you know?
exactly.
Aaron just validated it. You have it.
Check it at the end of the month or something. It makes the bookkeeping much harder.
Yeah, I just throwing that out.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, so this year's spending revenue is really set, essentially,
What do you mean?
right? Because revenue, because the only revenue we're gonna see for this year is fall sports
Spring.
for this fiscal year.
Um,
But you don't collect.
Yeah, I guess-
Right?
if,
Well,
yeah,
that's not true. We do. We did it last year because it technically has to hit the books by June 30th to meet, and because it's.
Yeah.
Last year was the first year that we really held tight to that because of the new accountant.
But I thought the 23 in revenue we've seen was from last spring.
No. We paid in June because Alicia wanted it in June.
Yeah.
So is the 23,
Where's that 23 from?
where's the
This year?
23 from?
We aren't gonna have two springs in one fiscal year.
right,
I thought we got it in before June.
I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, because you can't have
Sure.
two springs.
Right,
Well, we shouldn't have two springs.
I mean,
It's not possible.
you could have two, you realize twice, but that's not what we're aiming for.
Right.
So I guess it's not clear to me right now then what our revenue and I mean, I think we have a pretty good sense of what the expenses are gonna come in with. Probably a $5,000 range on the end of it. But it's not at all clear to me what our projected revenue for this season is, or for this fiscal year.
Right, well, it depends on how many registered, right? You
I know,
can't,
but
how do you do that?
You know, take last year
I mean-
even, or take last year and add 10% or.
Well,
take
and that's
5%
what I
away.
said. If you just take last year's numbers.
Yes,
Your number was, let's call it $20 for round number. If
but
you
that
take
was,
la-
that was based on last year's expenses, I think.
Correct. So then if you take last year's numbers,
But what was, I guess I'm still, so. The
You go back to
23
slide
is,
10,
the 23 is really confusing.
yeah, go back.
See the numbers, go to slide 10.
Because we had a total of 19 for fiscal year 22, and we're already in half a year, we're already at 23.
So
4
then
months.
spring has to be in there, spring and summer.
But that total number is 12.5.
I mean,
Which
these were the
total?
numbers I have in Munis.
The total number that we billed these guys for the spring season was $12,500.
What guys? The entire sports.
This is all sports.
Okay.
So. Yeah, I mean, again, if.
Let me talk to Alicia tomorrow and see if I can figure out what's going on with the revenue on it.
Because
Yeah.
did you say has fall been paid yet?
No.
All
No.
sports? No, so
We
it
haven't
should,
got those numbers yet.
should really just be summer on there then so far, correct?
Yeah. So the only thing I can think of, because we've just switched over to the revolving. So if there's money that's been like left over from the previous year, it just rolls over. All right,
So theoretically, just less revenue.
Correct.
Right.
yes,
Even less.
Okay, so, and do we have the fall registration numbers?
no,
Yeah, just so it's in it, yeah, okay. Wait, what?
Well, oh, sorry, both.
Fall number, no, we do not have the fall registration numbers or invoices yet. Fall just ended.
But in essence, we're at an
How
even
do you
big.
split the dining hall? That's weird.
You don't. So far,
Correct.
I think I have, I think 150
Right. But yeah, soccer had about the same amount of participants.
600.
6.
Yeah, and Aaron had about like us. Aaron didn't run the season because it didn't. In the fall season, we never got off the ground. We only did the clinics.
Is that for lacrosse?
Yeah. Yeah, we did the free clinics on Sundays was the only thing that ended up happening. Because the girls couldn't field a team. That was the only team that they were trying to do. Fall.
So that's.
But everything aside on that, the number where we got to the 25 to 30 was based off of last year's historical data, which is concrete information of knowing that we would have had to charge $20. The number of 25 to 30 comes from the fact that with what our spend has been this year so far, that's the number we're chasing plus 4 months, which is your 25 to your 30 number.
So, and I think that we need to make a decision tonight because registrations are gonna be opening up. for
Right.
other
Baseball
groups,
is
I'm
I'm sure.
What are you trying to open tomorrow?
I mean, yes.
Yeah. Waiting for this decision and then, so we definitely have to come to some consensus tonight on what we're gonna do.
And just so everybody knows, I did have a conversation with Aaron prior to this meeting. I talked to Norm on the phone. I talked to Aaron on the phone. Aaron was going to disseminate this information out to the rest of his team. He did not seem to have an issue with whichever we went with. The understanding was there that this is something that, you know, we need to do. We're repairing the fields. We haven't had an increase, and with the 50 people he has, he didn't feel that it would be that impactful to their users.
I mean, I think in consideration of the raised costs for everything, you know, the fact that we haven't revisited this in 3 years and we were supposed to revisit this, you know, we may get on the December meeting some more audience members who may be a little more critical of us. But I think in the long run, I think, you know, it's one of those things, you know, it's like when we raise fees at the lake, we're never the favorite people in town. So,
Not going with it went very well.
yes, that's right. This is a good year this year. So,
Unfortunately, we can't make up what wasn't done.
Exactly.
All we can do is fix it and make sure it's done right moving forward.
Yep.
And so
Right.
that's,
So there definitely has to be a reminder on.
Can't-
the system.
Yeah.
we can't waste time trying to fix the past.
Right.
any more discussion? Does anyone want to make a motion? Does anyone want to discuss it more?
Brad?
I mean, I guess my feeling right now is that with the uncertainty we have, I would certainly not go any higher than 25 for the spring. Would be my feeling. I'm more than happy to, I mean, and I think we also need to then think about these guys' schedule when they're gonna start putting out their registration for the fall so that we can be ahead of that with planning. I guess that's where my head is at. So sort of expectation of it probably would be 30 in the fall, but.
Yeah.
You give it a little bit of a step to. Because we're,
I hear you. I do, I'm going back and forth between is the $5 really that meaningful in sense,
Right. I would ask, would it be harder to go back again and say in the same year, now it's going up an additional $5?
It's the massive, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
probably not. I mean, the chances, like we said, the chances of losing anybody are probably slim. It's just,
That's
It might be
my,
easier just to take the
Yeah.
hit.
but.
I would just, that's my thought where you hit them, you say 25 and you come back, whatever.
It,
3,
it
4
would be
months
like,
later,
why didn't you,
another
yeah,
Why didn't you do this the first time?
Yeah.
I mean, it's for
But-
$5, but
But the problem is that soccer, you
Well, they don't eat it, they can build it in. It's early, bird.
registration,
It's early bird right now.
the registration's
Right.
open, so they're gonna have to, right, everything's, the communication's all gone out, right? So they're gonna have to go back and say, the people who registered early really get a really early bird discount.
I mean, they opened it a week ago. I sent an email on the 28th that said we're gonna discuss tonight.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but we have
So
a
that
sports
was
council.
a
for the
choice
exact
that-
reason,
right.
They made.
whole reason that was created.
Sports council meeting was on the 19th and, I know it was late, but Aaron asked me, to respond and I sent the email on 10/28 that we're discussing it tonight.
And it was discussed at the meeting too,
Yes.
that we would take it up at this meeting, at the sports council meeting that happened.
Yeah, and I can't speak to that because I wasn't there, but thank you.
Can I chime in real quick?
Sure.
I missed the part where you said what the proposal was for the spring fee.
we don't have one yet.
We don't have one.
You don't have one yet. I did hear somebody say maybe going up to $20, which would be a $5 increase. I can absorb that if you want, if you guys would all agree to that. And then I don't have to push it out to my membership and I don't have to explain to them twice, hey, listen, this is why I'm going up. And in my registration fees, and I can handle all that back in fall of 2023, if that works for you guys.
Brad, you misheard that. None of us suggested 20.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard a 20 in there. No, okay.
Sorry.
Yep. So let me know what it's going to be, and then I will have to absorb what it is. Just hoping it's not a $30 jump. Well, a jump to 30. And if we can get, if you have concrete numbers on where you are, then we can make a bigger jump. It's a lot easier for families to understand.
I mean, I think it's, so I'm leaning towards the 30. And I think what we have to do is just be very clear with folks that, everyone knows prices are, we've all been to Market Basket,
I knew we were
like every price is going up and water, equipment, everything we need to maintain the fields has gone up significantly. I know that, I've redone a few fields and grass seed alone is like up like 50%, I think. It's one of those things that's, just a reality at this point, unfortunately.
I agree. And we're not just raising it just for the heck of it, there's-
No.
We have a litany of different things that are legitimate reasons why it has to be done. I don't think anyone's going to disagree that, these things need to happen.
And is soccer unable to add something? So say, so like we talked about people registered now. So what if people register 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now? Can they recoup some of it by
I mean,
people who are, obviously already registered, pay this fee, but anybody after give it 2 weeks or 3 weeks? Sure. I don't, maybe they don't recoup it all, but they recoup some of it.
yeah, or just make us be the bad guys and say Park and Rec Commission had on November 8th initiated this new fee. So unfortunately, the registration went up from, whatever, $60 to $90. Or, the difference between what they've already paid,
Yeah.
whatever, and
It's not about, you made the decision.
So is the middle school field Was that the one that's when you're driving in, it's to the right of the parking lot?
Yes.
I mean, that field was a hot mess this year.
This year?
Yeah, that's the field we played on. It was not good. So I think it would be easier to swallow if we were saying that some of those, we're making sure we.
They talked about when we stopped watering it.
That's why.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm like, wait,
That would be-
I was like, that field is pretty,
That-
no,
no.
when we stopped
Like, we did
watering it.
a lot of work to that thing.
Yes, when it was bone dry, like everything
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't water it.
But I mean, that's something like that is part of the message too.
Yeah.
You know,
Can the chairman make motions? No, right? Think so, right?
it's obviously running as the process.
All right, any more discussion? All right, does anyone want to make a motion?
Are we agreeing that $30 is the way to go?
I would be fine with that, yes.
I would,
All right, well, I will make a motion to increase the fee to $30, from $15 to $30.
All right, can we get a second? Second. Scott, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Hopefully the December meeting will not be well attended. That's why we do it in December.
Be good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah. New Year's Day, the December meeting.
You're
So when do you guys usually open registration for the fall season?
Around, so fall gone. We're opening spring.
No, but for,
No, no, for next year, fall 23. Fall never start Labor Day, so. Probably mid-July. Ish.
I think the soccer's about that same time too. Yeah.
although if they follow suit, that, yeah, to be when spring season's ending is what they did this year. I mean, they kicked it off. I mean, fall soccer just ended Saturday.
Yeah.
So they kicked it off before, I think, before the season was over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the same in the spring.
Yeah.
When do you normally open your spring registration?
Now,
So end of October, beginning of November.
So it needs to be on the October docket for us, September.
Yeah. September, I'd say it's better.
All right,
So honestly, to Brad's point, whatever you guys are setting in fiscal year budget at is what Brad brought up, so really it should give them time to hit that. What was Brad saying he made his budget?
I don't know. Do you, what's your fiscal year? Do you run?
July, I think,
Starts in July. Okay, so it's the same. as-
Okay.
So
Good same
April,
town,
April or
yeah.
June, when we're setting all the park and rec budgets, is really when we should be setting the rates. for
That's it,
the
April,
schools.
yeah.
Okay.
If we can get,
can we also get a schedule of, so can we bill them right after the season starts instead of waiting until the end? Like, what's
I
the
did
rationale?
I did do that at the beginning of this past spring. The reason it's better to wait is because sometimes stuff gets all shifted around. Like some kids might come on a little bit later, or maybe some kids decide it's not for them, or, it allowed them to let all that stuff shake out.
but if the season's what, 3 months? Maybe.
Like soccer just ended last week, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
the invoices, the fall invoice is about to get sent out.
And they started in September.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, so do you want me to put on here that we will start reviewing the fees in September for spring? And April, you said? for
No,
fall?
I think we should review. Assuming that everybody is on a similar fiscal year, we should review the fees in April for the next year.
When we set our
Budget
fiscal,
already.
when we do our fiscal budget is when we need to set their fiscal budget.
Yes.
They're running the same fiscal calendar.
Yeah, but our process is way different than,
That doesn't matter. It's when we're setting our budget, when
yeah, I'm setting my budget like now. For next fiscal year.
It's the
Yeah.
spring, they, all the sports are probably a spring participation is the big one. So we want to have, if there's an increase coming, we want to be able to catch it in the spring registration.
So we should talk about any increases then. So if there's gonna be additional increases, we have to start talk about it in the spring for the following spring. Is that
That's right.
right?
So,
right.
I
'cause
mean,
their fiscal
next,
year is
we
July.
should,
Yeah, yeah.
so we should hold 30 through June of 24.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So everybody can plan on 30 through June of 24 in April of
Going back to what I,
24, we'll look at
going back to what I said, at the
Fiscal
beginning,
2025.
that gives us the ability to hopefully get at least one full normal year.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
put this, that
I mean,
was,
To open.
correct. That rain condition may be normal, but
right,
we'll see.
right.
So do we need to include that in our motion? Now that it's.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
putting that in as notes, like that's, we will moving forward, that'll be part of our schedule. Yeah.
But for their planning purposes, it will be set.
It's the same thing when we said, when we decided that we were gonna do the beach rate setting from December to September.
Yeah.
That issues passed. Which, just to point out, we're not raising the beach rates. This meeting has come and gone, everything went very well.
That's right. No participation, I don't think. So, all right, so we've done that. So any more discussion on this or can we move on? All right. So let's get back to town meeting review. And rescinding.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thanks for coming.
All right, so this was another thing that popped up a few days before town meeting. So when we had gone through the process, to start, I guess, getting off of the enterprise and in their, enacting the, revolving fund, there was a specific article that was written that had a specific sum of money. And then it also said, or other sum, right? The IRS had really big issues with that article and the way that it was written. So essentially, they were saying that we were not going to be able to spend anything out of our enterprise at all. So luckily, our finance director and our town council were able to put together an article very quickly and to be able to essentially what happened was the $163,000 that was in the enterprise was given to the revolving from free cash. And when we will rescind the enterprise fund, that $463,000 will go back to free cash. So it's like a net zero. So that we're able to still use those funds and continue to operate. So that all happened at town meeting, and looks like we may be having another special town meeting sooner than we expected to have. So if that does occur, then we will put this on there and go through the process of rescinding the enterprise fund, which would shut it down. So I wanted to bring that to everybody tonight so that we could talk about it, potentially take a vote on rescinding it. We're not going to be using the enterprise at all, so it's either going to be rescinded at this special town meeting, or, you know, if we have to wait till spring, then it will happen then. Either way, it will happen.
I said, what are we voting on? Because I don't see where we have any say in this at all.
Rescinding of the enterprise, yeah, so closing out the enterprise.
Okay.
So that would be something that, yeah, you guys do have to take a vote on that.
Just endorse it, because the actual closing is gonna happen at, back to the meeting vote.
But you are also Park Commission, and it's a little bit different, separate, so your
It's like the
approval,
Thanksgiving closing.
your approval would be very much needed in this process. Could they at town meeting decide to do it? Yeah, but it's good to have your support
Sure.
from your board, yeah. So, any questions about, I know everybody looks a little boggled, I'm sorry. Any questions about it? It is a little bit of a weird situation to be in, so.
Is it more like we support this article thing,
Yeah.
Well, that we
Because I mean-
support the rescinding
Yeah.
of the enterprise fund, so that if you would support this, you're saying that you want the 463,000 from the enterprise to go back to the general fund or to free cash, because they had already given us that money from free cash, so it would just be like a net zero transaction.
All right, any questions, comments, discussion?
all of the Byzantine, but I will make a motion that we support the return of funds to free cash from the enterprise fund.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
You?
Okay.
All right. So the next one, class and compensation update. So this was something where we voted to increase our Schedule C and C1 to get to the $15 an hour minimum wage. At that same time, they also they've been working on a class and compensation report. And they changed the Schedule A grid, and Schedule A is for all the full-time employees in town. So that was accepted at town meeting, this new grid. So that was part of this first process of this class and compensation. So the next step of this is that some of the positions they haven't all fallen on the grid because they really expanded it. So there's a couple issues with, like, our program coordinator positions are on the same grid line as our team program lead, which doesn't really make any sense because the team program lead position is actually underneath the program coordinator. So I've updated the job description for that one to go to an advisory panel. There's 3 people that were part of this whole process to create this new grid. So I'm asking them to regrade that job description. So that's something that they'll be working on now and through January 1st. So the assistant director position is another one that I'm going to be working on as well. So those are the only 2 positions that we have to fix as far as the job descriptions go. And then we should be good to go moving forward. But the goal is to be able to complete all of this before the 1st of January. So all of that can take effect Cause that was part of the decision that they made. So even like the $15 minimum wage, right? That's enacted on January 1. So all of that stuff will take place at that time. But that's just more of like an update to let you know that those things are happening. That's something, we have to consider with budgets and all of that moving forward. So any questions?
Nope.
All right.
Youth scholarship.
Actually,
Oh.
going back to the tennis pickleball project.
Oh, sure.
I guess, yeah, keeping in mind, we still had the discussion earlier about the tennis courts and making sure that it's a degree that we can help it along that new facility and or existing facilities would be useful for the town, not just the schools.
Right.
But also I think we had some momentum going for Cooper Farm as a development. I think that's been on the agenda for a while to do something with that property, so.
Yep.
Yeah, my thought is that we should continue to pursue. Not necessarily tennis courts at that facility, but do some of the outreach to the town. Maybe it's part of the open space, the other pieces, but to keep
Right.
moving with that and try and figure out what it is we actually want there.
Right.
Bring those designs forward, start to work on that, because there is still a chunk of money in CPC recreation funds, if that's something we want to use it for.
Yeah.
Let's continue to look at those projects and figure out what makes sense there. Rather than. We did a lot of work, we had the start of the plan. Let's use that, try and get some value out of it, and then make that a valuable property as opposed to a somewhat empty field.
I hate you.
The hay fields.
Literal.
Are they actually hanging? I mean, if they're hanging, that's at least a positive.
Yeah. that's-
It goes both sides.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that was my sort of keep on that either way,
Yeah.
whether that's a survey or outreach to the town or whatever it is to figure out what we want there. Let's keep that.
Okay.
Was that field large enough for soccer or no, because of the parking?
Like, now you open a can of worms. No, just kidding.
Oh,
It would have to be a heavily, maybe not heavily is not the word, but a modified field to fit there and parking.
No, just the size.
The,
Oh, okay.
the leach field encroached more
Yeah.
on the property than originally thought.
Natural pieces.
Yes.
So, yeah, that originally was the plan of it. But, if we're looking at all the stuff coming offline, maybe that's something we do think about again. That's,
Whereas, the fitness
thought,
facility. or
right?
the Dog park. And then, so whatever, I think we need to find. Get some feedback, find out what the town. As a whole would like to see there. Yeah, and then figure out if it's feasible. and have to do it.
and that's part of that statistically valid, we're gonna call it a statistically valid community assessment. Because somebody had told me that saying a statistically valid survey was like saying wet water. So we'll rename it. But we are still in the process of, yeah. So before town meeting, I had been meeting with Ryan. We were working on trying to get all of the scope of work hammered out. And so I handed that to him before town meeting, and town meeting sets up everything, right? So now that that's in the past, we can start focusing on that again forward. So the hope is that, we'll be able to do that relatively. So, but all of the answers, it's like, this is the magic bullet, right? All of the answers that we're looking for are somewhat would come out of this statistically valid needs assessment.
Yes, although I think so, to some degree, there could also be some more focused, just questions about, you know, what people would like to see.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what we're looking for in this. Yeah.
Okay, oh, you would put it in the survey.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this whole survey is supposed to be focused on programs, facilities, like what do we need as a town? What are you asking of our department?
Okay.
That we can provide you. So we do have that statistical backup and say, listen, this is like 98% statistically valid from, you know,
Yeah.
the demographics in your town of what people want. So it's important. Okay. Scholarships. So we have one scholarship from Mighty Oak Fund. Every year Bobby does this awesome golf tournament, which they had this fall. So from that, he donated $2,000 to the Youth Scholarship Fund, which is really awesome of him. So that's up for acceptance. And then the other one is a family they needed assistance. I ended up taking the money out of our youth scholarship fund because it wasn't clear if they were going to get funding from DCF. And they did eventually. We just got a check like 2 weeks ago. So what we're gonna do is take that check that would have gone to pay for that student and then put that into the scholarship since we already paid for them through the scholarship. So those are the two donation asks.
So we need to vote to accept them, correct?
Make a motion to accept the donation from the Mighty Oak Scholarship Fund and dedicate funds from DCF to the scholarship.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you again to Mighty Oak Fund for.
Yes,
continued support.
It's awesome that
Bobby
they
does a
get to
good
do that every year. Yeah. All right. Special events.
All right, so, last special event was, probably our best attended event in, Park and Recreation history so far.
There you go.
Thank you to Aaron for, coming and, being our punk rock, person, or rock,
Heavy metal.
what, heavy metal guy in our, in our dinosaur themed, Park and Rec crew. So yeah, trunk or treat, we did have, we had some issues with event location. We had booked the Alumni Field parking lot back when we set the dates in January. The week of, because of the weather, there were 3 soccer games moved there. So, ultimately we moved to the middle school parking lot where there happened to be a middle school dance. Which I can also, say we got some calls and some concerns about. Ultimately, it didn't really seem like the dance was impacted at all. Seemed like all the kids made it in time. We were gone before the dance was even over.
Yeah.
JK Rolling Pizza Kitchen was there. They sold out of everything they had. At one point, we had the entire parking lot full in a line all the way back to Alumni and just people as far as the eye can literally see. We gave out close to 50,000 pieces of candy just from what we had invested in for the event. Not to mention
Using
50,000. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was only 13,000.
No.
I need to adjust my number.
So, as always, thank you to all of the participants who brought trunks. This was an absolutely incredible event. The costumes were great. The trunks were great. Thank you to the Littleton Highway Department who, they made both their loaders. You see a picture here. They did an awesome job. Littleton Police Department, Littleton Fire Department, everybody who was involved in making this happen. It was a stellar event. We heard nothing but good things except for the, middle school dances at the same time. And, so, those were the 2 things. Other than that, it was awesome. So thank you guys. And as always, anybody can come join Aaron. He loves to come. Saul was there briefly too as well, yep. So, come, we love having you guys at the events. People love seeing you. So,
I get dressed up.
what?
You gotta get dressed up.
Gotta get dressed up. All right, so moving forward, our next special event
Just
is going to be our Holiday Helpers Bowl-a-thon. So for those of you who don't know what Holiday Helpers is, it is our gift giving initiative. The Holiday Helpers tree will be going up at the Park and Rec offices next Monday. Kelsey was pushing me to put the tree up this week. However, I told her I think November 14th is great. The tree, for those of you who do not know, will have the gift tags on it. I'll let Alicia speak more to that in a minute. To get into the special event and what we have a real need for, we over the period of COVID had unbelievable donations and generosity and stuff come into our Holiday Helpers program. We've been able to really do amazing things the past couple of years. We've had somewhere in the neighborhood of about $13,000 worth of donations coming in, over the course of the past couple of years, if not a little more than that. And, now we're at that point where we are looking for donations to come in, as well as for people to help by picking up the tags and buying the gifts. One of the things we do to supplement that is we run the bowl-a-thon. We used to do the turkey trot, which turned into the Santa race. Weather was always against us, it seemed. And also the cost of running a race and having to pay for detail and stuff, it didn't really benefit us as much as it could. Last year we had the bowl-a-thon for the first time at the actual bowl ground. It was amazing. We raised about $2,700 last year through the bowl-a-thon. This year we are going to do the bowl-a-thon again. We are going to move that event to a Friday night, however. We're going to run it on December 2nd. We are currently working out all of the details. Everything will be posted beginning of next week for cost per team, all of that kind of stuff. We will have adult teams, student teams, different rates for all of those. And we are trying to grow that event as well. We will do the pitcher of soda and pizza included like we did last year. Included your, games all set up as well as your shoes in that per person price and per team price. So, yep. We're gonna do everything right there. Keep it nice and close for everybody. We're hoping, we've seen that when we do things on Friday night, like the kickoff summer party, like trunk or treat, we tend to have a little bit of a better turnout. This is also the weekends before basketball and fall and winter sports start. So hopefully, it'll entice people to come out as well, kind of coming off that Thanksgiving lull. They can come, out and get something to do as a family or with their friends. So, the next thing that we'll be having is Fire and Ice. So we'll be talking about that in December. That'll be our February, and then all of the whole docket of 2023 events for you guys that we'll discuss and roll that out with our spring summer brochure, which we're about to start working on. So that's really all for special events. Does anybody have any questions on special events before I turn it over to Alicia for Holiday Helpers? Yes.
So when you book the space, memorial or whatever, who are you communicating with? Who organizes that?
So when I set the deck of our special events. Typically what we do is I do have a meeting with Sergeant here, just make sure that they can cover our details.
Okay.
And then once we kind of select those dates and those are kind of set, the next step is I send out calendar invites to like all the parties. So highway department, police department, fire department, us. Some will go to different people who need to be involved in certain things. And just say, hey, this is when we're booking this is when we're gonna do it. If there's a rain date, here's what it is. There's notes on there that say we need Fay Park mode for third Thursday, by Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever those are. And then people accept them or they don't accept them. How we roll that.
So for the school parking lots, is that through the schools or is that?
Yeah, so that's through the schools, which is that's Mike Lynn that goes through School Dude. Unfortunately, some of the stuff just like we put it in, and if they decide something else is going there, that's what they're.
Yeah.
Were the soccer games youth soccer games or like?
Middle
school soccer?
Middle school.
So two middle school
Middle
soccer.
school soccer games and something else.
It's
There were
3,000 people.
435, 36, yeah. Whatever it was, all right in that time frame. Quite busy.
It was enough that Tigers Den sent out a notice, please get your child early.
Yeah, there was no parking at
No.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Backed up on Boston Street level at the end of both sides, so right, Boston Street Road.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Same thing when happens. With gyms, classrooms.
Yep.
so, and who, that's through Mike or through
There's a program we
Steve or?
use. There's a program that we submit stuff into. So
The school do your.
That's the name of the program.
Yeah.
a program.
Sorry if that was not
I assume
clear.
you
That was the
actually
name of the
started
software.
School's not just a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought you were trying not to throw somebody under the bus.
That is the name of the software.
So
Yeah.
when it goes into school food, do they like accept it or decline it?
Yes, but just because it's accepted doesn't mean that it can't be declined at a later.
At a later time, right.
Without notice?
Yep, school property, we have this conversation all the time.
No, I know, I'm just verbalizing my thoughts.
Yeah.
So I guess just.
So basically, we got a call, Kelsey got an email that soccer was moving these games there. At which point we said, okay, let's kind of think about it, and then we also got a call from Steve Mark at the day later, the next day.
Chris, the dance.
Because they had expressed, at this point, soccer had been moved there, now it was, people were aware, oh, trunk or treat's there. Then we got a call from Steve Mark saying, oh, well, how's Tigers Day gonna pick up if you guys are shutting down the parking lot?
Yeah.
At which point I said, okay, fine, if you guys are gonna do a soccer game and we're having Tigers Day issues, we'll just move it over to the middle school park.
Which you
And
did talk to the
then-
principal.
Which we did, I went and talked to Jason. First thing I did was drove over and talk to Jason Everhart, the principal.
Yeah.
But then about 9:45 at night, Kaz texts me, like, "Did you see Facebook?" He's like, everybody's freaking out because the dance is there. I was like, oh, well. So I went and talked to Jason the next day and I explained it. I showed him how we were setting it up and everything. He's like, no, it's fine. He's like, we've already explained to the kids if they go outside, they're not allowed back in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But
I did tell
we
them
didn't
I was
have
not
any-
thinking that.
there was no issue other than that it was crazy busy.
Yeah.
And I think, unless we had something the size of the IBM parking lot, it didn't matter where we put that event, it was
Nuts.
didn't matter.
But next year's gonna be worse, not worse, better,
Bigger and
Bigger,
better.
better.
Every
So
year.
we need to,
Think about it.
like, cause middle school's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And a rain delay may happen, or they may just accept it and then bump us for some. Like, do we have other, we don't need to talk about it,
Yeah.
but. I think we need to think about what another potential option may be that doesn't involve school property.
I mean, the issue is we've outgrown 300 King.
Yep.
We did it at town hall last year. Parking was a nightmare. Parking lot was too dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which we moved it from Alumni Field last year too, because the girls' state championship soccer game was going on.
Correct.
Right,
So
yeah,
my
proper
fear is that
goal.
we're gonna go 3 for 3 on getting bumped.
You know what? I mean, the point I'm trying to make is, ultimately it's, where there's not really anywhere else to put it unless.
Yeah, we have parking lot.
Unless IBM, Saul and stuff have, space for us to use, and that's something we work on, or.
No.
In Hill Park,
I was just gonna
we
say-
do it in Indian Hill if we get that building and park people at the high school or have it at the high school. I mean,
Yeah.
there's all these things, but it's the best way to plan for my cement. We do this all the time.
Yep.
80% of our jobs is planning something for 3 months and then the
Rearrange.
day of.
Yeah.
Yes, Kaz, that's a bane of his existence, is, we're moving stuff all the time. Yes, maybe we can, make a great partnership with the potentials orchard, group, and that would be an awesome place to host something like that.
Mm.
Sorry. Yeah, all right.
Fields.
Side of every street. Miles.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Just you want a bunch of
Wow.
kids walking around in the dark.
Hey, right, the whole,
Fire and ice gonna be in Fay, or,
we don't flood bay. Come on, Kevin.
I know you don't, but I want it to be.
And it wants to be flooded.
Well, so you can walk there?
Yes. So I can use the ice.
I will, we're not gonna flood Bay Park.
Is it gonna be real ice or fake ice? Real ice or fake?
TBD.
Huh?
Right now,
We never know.
right now, you're not having any,
No, I know.
Yeah.
so, all right.
All right. Yeah, let's,
Move the question,
Yeah, we
9
still
o'clock,
have-
we got a lot.
All
all right, on to Alicia here.
So just the last piece of that was holiday helpers applications are open. They have been since middle of October. So the deadline is the 16th. So if there's any families that want to enroll or any families that you think may need help this winter, definitely encourage them to come and apply. It's an amazing program, and you know, it's just nice to see how much this town cares and gives back. It's awesome. Okay, so let's go to director's report. So we finally got our forecasting model fixed, which is awesome. So currently we are $184,709 in the green, which is amazing. We have things are a bit different, right? So we have our revolving revenue. So all of our revenue is just going straight into that revolving, nowhere else. We're off of the enterprise at this point in time. Our wages, we have Tim, myself, and Kelsey are on the general fund. The rest of it's coming out of the revolving. And then the expenses, same thing. There are a few items like some special events and utilities that would come out of the general fund, but the rest of that would be coming out of the revolving. So just for simplicity, I put it all together, but if you would like to see that broken out in the future, I can definitely do that. You just let me know and I will make it as you wish to see it. So that is our year to date right now. And then this, I always like to add this little snapshot in here. So this is from our MyRec software, just to show you our revenue coming in. So this more of an aqua blue color is our current year, and the sky blue color is the previous year. So we've definitely been well over our mark for this past fiscal year. We've been doing really good with registrations. July is completely skewed
For the blue.
for the blue, because that was the year that we decided we were going to hold off any registrations for camp until July 1 for any programs after July 1, which was a very good exercise to take a look at, but we won't be doing that in the future. It's difficult for everyone, for us, for our participants, so we're just not going to go back to that.
I think one important thing that I would like for you guys to know is, you know, our team has done an amazing job, with the exception of the correction for our increase of our minimum wage on the Schedule C grid. You know, even with things, expenses and stuff going up, we really did not apply any increases to our programming this year. So, you know, I don't want people to look at these numbers and say, oh, well, we increased programming costs. We haven't. You know, we increased programming costs to cover that Schedule C increase, but this is strictly a grind of getting new participants into our programming, making sure the programming that we're putting forth is running. And it's a real testament to Kaz and Brent and the job that they've done, that these numbers are where they are. It's not an increase in costs or it's not an increase in things that we're passing off
Right.
and fees that we're collecting as participants.
So we are growing. All right. Budget process, I just wanted to go through this. So we're already well on our way. We're getting to the point now where, so just to clarify, because our budget process is gonna change a little bit. So the only thing that I'm really putting into, the town administrator and finance director would be anything off of our general fund. And that is, like I talked about, our salaries, there's about $20,000 for special events. And then we try to calculate what utilities are gonna be throughout the year, to cover those costs. So all of those, that's essentially what's going in. When we move forward with our revolving, we always will have to vote what that cap is gonna be, but we're not gonna have to do a super detailed, I do it anyway, but we don't have to actually present a super detailed budget to, FinCom at that time for the revolving account. So when we go forward, you're gonna mostly only see stuff that will be for our capital requests. And then also the general fund, requests that we have this year. So the next step of this process is to be able to sit down with the finance director and town administrator and talk about those requests that I'm putting in. We're not really changing too much from last year that was put in, so I don't think there should be too much of a discussion with them. And then January and February, that's where we start having the joint meetings with the FinCom and Select Board to do a presentation and to talk about the general fund request as well as the capital request, which we will get into after this. And then there's a whole bunch of different steps that happen. So we get to Springtown meeting, and then the next step would be having that budgeted amount approved at Springtown meeting. So the mint green colors are really the only two bigger steps for us that will be happening in the next few months. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. All right. So that brings us to our capital projects. So this is something that it's definitely important for us to take a look at this on a yearly basis and decide, you know, do we still want to stick with the projects that we had? Do you want to make some more important than others, especially with some of this other stuff that's happened politically, financially, all that stuff? You know, we might want to think about some of the projects that we have on this list. So I did want to print this little sheet out for you just so you can kind of take a look at the difference of how they are equating the, if you're saying something is the highest priority and you're asking for that, that's like, you know, we need to have it this year. It's absolutely imperative. And they kind of give some of the detailed descriptions of what would be acceptable in that request for those highest priorities. Then you've got your second, third, fourth. So this year, this is based off of things that I had mentioned from our previous year at that budget meeting. So we did get our van. Well, we don't physically have our van yet. But we have been told that it is actually on a list to get built. So that's good. But the next thing that we need to be able to replace is our pickup truck. So that's definitely been put on as a high priority. It's an awesome truck. We love it very much. However, it doesn't have the capability of being able to tow the special events trailer. So either Tim or even a few times myself, I've had to, you know, transport that trailer with our own personal vehicles. So we really do need to get something that's more useful for our department. So putting in a request for the replacement of that 2011 Ford Ranger is definitely on there. Our sailboat fleet, and Tim, you can talk to this a little bit more if you want to. Our poor sunfish boats have been put back together and glued and fixed so many times, and you know they're kind of made for that, but at the same time they have a lot of repairs, and it would be amazing if we could have a newer fleet and definitely something that's a little bit of an upgrade from the Sunfish that we have. So something like these, the Club 420 sailboats is kind of that next step up in that learning process. And our sailing program has just like exploded. It's amazing. So it would give, Tim the opportunity to be able to do a intermediate program and still a beginner and have room for some of those sailors to be able to grow. So I don't know, is there anything more you wanna?
I mean, ultimately, what we have is we have a fleet of sailboats. Our two newest boats are 2017. The boats prior to that are anywhere from the 70s up to the 90s. 3 of them I've gotten off Facebook Marketplace fixed up for free. I've done all the fiberglass repairs and everything for the past 5 years. Ultimately, what we would like to see and where we've grown is we'd like to, have some of our Sunfish that are still operational, but we'd like to supplement them with other boats. We'd like to get some of the 420 as Alicia's talking about, possibly, possibly a catamaran type boat, like a Hobie Cat or something, just different types of opportunities for the sailors who, have, sailed the Sunfish, have done that, there's just different things that we can kind of work towards. And, I've spoken to Saul in the past, and I would defer to him because he's probably the best sailor in this room. But he does have a lot of experience, both of his daughters do our programs, and I think that there's room for us to grow in other ways. It is nice to have a full fleet of Sunfish that we can take the kids out. Our biggest weeks, we take 30 kids out a week per day, and we have a great time and they learn a lot. But there's also opportunity for us to teach them how to sail other vessels.
Yeah, yes, I think having some diversity in the fleet would be good. I'm not sure. We're to think about and probably do some review of what's out there, what's available. I mean, Club 420s are a very standard boat, but they suffer some of the same maintenance issues as the Sunfish. There may be alternatives that would be better suited for the treatment that they're going to get.
Aren't policies often used for
So,
sailing programs?
yes. However, the Opti is, I don't want to go there. Yes, it is often used primarily for youth level, although to a much older age than it should be, racing programs. It is not like the Sunfish is a little bit of a big boat for a 50 or 60-pound kid. The Opti, on the other hand, is not going to take 2 50 or 60-pound kids. So there's balance there. It might be. I don't know. I'd have to think hard about it.
I think the biggest thing is, but if we did invest, which we should, there's some level of diversity and mixture that we could go with that would be a better fit than having 15 Sunfish.
Right. I think a true double-hander would probably be good. Double-hander, 2 sailboat would be a good growth place for the kids to go. I don't think we're, and I could be off base here. I don't think we're aiming for a high-level race program. We're not. So, and if we were aiming for a high-level race program, then I would say, yeah, these are the way to go. But outside of that, it's not. There are some Opti-like boats that might be good for really single-handing, but they're really very much single-handed.
So the real goal of our program is, it's a learn to sail program. It's a community voting program. You want to get on the water, you want to come learn how to do it. Once you get to a certain level, for us, you can become a CIT or you can help run the program, but if you want to go on to bigger and better things, gotta go down to Boston or somewhere else to get those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I certainly think, yeah, expanding and diversifying the fleet and some modernization would be valuable. And I think it's, I mean, based on, I don't know, the number, based on the program, it's clearly successful in terms of the number of kids.
And so right now we're averaging 25 kids a week. So most of our weeks will sell out at 30 weeks.
A very pretty big wait list,
Right.
for sure.
It's definitely, we'll sell out the sailing program the day it opens. We have the past 2 years. And I don't see a reason that's not gonna happen again. So, it's also one of the reasons we don't have to raise beach rates this year.
So I'm gonna go through these and then we can kind of talk about them after, if that's all right. So preserving, fixing, recoding, resurfacing, however you want to word that, the court's at 300 King. So the courts were actually completed in 2015, just they still seem kind of like brand new. They are recommended to be resurfaced every 5 years. So at this point, we're kind of going on 7 here. They are still in really good shape, and I think, COVID helped a lot of that, right? We had about a year where they weren't in use. But it is something that we have had on the capital request for probably about like 2 years now. So it's one of those things like, are we gonna see it there 10 years down the road? We don't want to get to that place, right? But it is something that, I have it on there as sort of that second level of a priority. And this is another place where we could talk about lining with pickleball, right? Until we can get set pickleball courts themselves. Hopefully, if we were able to go the Indian Hill route. And then we could always plan the resurfacing so that we can cover up those lines, right? Once we resurface them. So that's always a possibility with that. So I've got that as number 3. But again, we're going to talk about where everything kind of lies. So number 4, this is kind of that world we're back into again with having Cooper open is, do we do a design for a new field creation? Right? Is that something that we're going to do on that space, or, do we look at somewhere else in town to be able to do that? So that's been for sure been on the list for 10 years. I can tell you that. And there is support for it. We did our field needs assessment in 2016. It definitely said that we are overusing all the fields that we have, and we most definitely need more moving forward. It's also in the Littleton Town Master Plan, and they talk about it in the Open Space and Recreation Plan from 2016 as well. So I'm sure that will also be a theme that comes up when we do our new open space plan in 2021, 2022. All right. Long Lake dock replacement. This is also another one that's been on there for a couple of years. We did do the sailing dock a few years back where we replaced it with a product called Cam Dock. And these are these little squares. They're interchangeable. They're amazing because if something happens to one, you can pay like $70 for that one block and then replace it. You can configure it in like a million different ways. It's a really amazing product. It was a really awesome purchase. So we would like to be able to replace that center dock, which is kind of fixed in place, we've used the plastic and metal one over the last couple of years, right? But we
We
mostly
haven't
do,
put it in 2 years.
but we,
Since pre-COVID, it hasn't been there.
so we would like to be able to put that back in, because that separates the lifeguard zones, which are helpful to have that. So, that's on the list. But
Water level down,
I mean,
it seemed it's,
right now it's up. It's
Well,
down all summer.
I know, I'm
all
like-
summer,
Yeah.
but like the last couple, it seems like the. Yeah, like
Yeah,
you're, you know, I mean, even at the deep dock, I am
2 years ago, they got rid of Beaver Dam, which.
dropped.
If you remember all of that.
the beaver deceiver, you don't remember that
I
whole
do, I
conversation?
do vaguely,
Kevin, yeah.
Then it actually broke and
Yeah.
where it all went, yeah, that was, yes.
okay, so
Yes.
yes, the water's down under 2 years ago, okay, that's, yes, okay,
I'm sure
so,
the drought.
This year's
did not
drought
help
did
it.
not help the
Yeah,
fact that
sure.
it's only 5 feet deep at the deep dock.
right,
Yes.
Somewhat deep down.
so, right, somewhat, yeah. I guess I don't know if we could change the boundaries at all, or dock
We cannot.
length, or, what's that?
We cannot.
We cannot, okay.
It used to be outside the purview, but technically our lifeguards are supposed to be able to respond to any emergency. They have 30 seconds to reach the furthest part of their zone.
Okay.
So when we test those, we, in the first year that I was here, we shrunk everything up, changed everything, and got the chagrin of everybody, but the reality of the situation is that's where it should be for us to be within our parameters.
Short of always having a lifeguard out.
Correct. Our lifeguards have 10 seconds to recognize and 20 seconds to respond to the furthest part of the zone that they're currently in. So that is the industry standard, and that's what we got ourselves to. And that could be swimming or rescue board or whatever it is, but that's the requirement.
So they can get to the farthest dock in 30 seconds.
Correct.
As far as.
If you were to, some of our faster swimmers can get out to the buoy line. Most likely, you would have somebody grab the rescue board right next to the stand, and paddle out there, and yes, when we do in-service trainings, that's one of the things that we verify when we do our validations.
All right, State Park renovation is another thing that we've been talking about for a very long time as well. So that would just be design money to create a design.
There's your answer.
What happened to the fire department? There was a fire guy that
Mhm.
came in front of us a
They're
few years
still-
ago.
Still there.
Still there.
That it was, they were supposed to bring some,
No, they were gonna donate, will go towards doing a fire engine or fire. It went through the
All right.
union, yeah,
or is it not?
I believe so. I mean. Absolutely. Part of my, yeah, like,
That was where
I missed the federal thing that we have going on is swing at Long Lake Beach during pre-COVID times. The swing was delivered last fall. We finally got around to putting them together, and it is, in my opinion, not commercially sound. As we put it together, the pieces didn't go together correctly. It was extremely rickety. Is, recycled material, so the beam above the head is very heavy. And there's also no way to anchor it into the ground. It doesn't have posts that go in and rest on top of the ground, so it's very easy to teeter. I need to reach back out to Lori and have this conversation. Ultimately, we're gonna need to come up with some sort of a commercial swing that we need to purchase. But I just want to make everybody aware that that's a conversation that has to happen. It's something that's been drug out for a couple of years now that needs to be rectified. However, the reason for it not being put into place was when we did start putting it together, it was something that it would be a liability for us to use that particular one that they had purchased.
I think we talked about, I think we need to come up with, if the town doesn't have one, we have to have a policy of, because at some point, there's gonna be 1,000 benches, if we just,
Right.
So I don't know if the town either has to have a policy, and I think to that, we have to say, if you're putting in a bench, these are the two options you have that
Right.
we have approved.
Yes.
If you're putting in a swing, it's gotta be, like, we have to tell you what
You
has to put here. Because it's just,
I'm
it's
gonna-
getting to be too much.
I'm gonna look into what will work there, what, ultimately, we're gonna do it, we already have the place set, but we need to get something that's commercially.
Yeah.
Able to be used out there.
Yeah.
That's
And-
not, that we're not gonna have a liability.
And I think at this point in time, she's gone through all of this stuff, like, we're just gonna purchase whatever the swing is that we, and
Just
we're just
get it
gonna
up for
put
the
it in. So, I agree with you. When I was in Fitchburg, a few of our different parks, there were a lot of these memorial benches, especially like that granite type. And it does start to have a feel of a cemetery.
Yeah,
Right, so that's something that, should be kind of
Yeah.
taken into consideration as well. And I mean, I hate to say that because I love this idea of,
right.
memorializing somebody, but, you're right, there
Or
needs to be a
like
balance.
plant a tree, if you want to plant a tree
Right.
somewhere, we can put a plaque next to a tree, but.
Yeah.
And it's gonna match the aesthetic of the park, like,
Right.
a granite bench in the middle of Bay Park, probably is not, and I know she doesn't want it there, but.
Right.
it's, we've gotta make it so that it's not out of place.
Right.
Oh, I picture one of those sort of field of trees like that. It has a similar,
Yeah,
Feeling,
like every tree has a marker on it.
Oh, yeah.
or it feels like an arboretum.
Every tree's a
Yes.
memorial tree.
Right.
Sorry,
I'm sorry to go back.
I know.
I knew
No,
I missed
I-
that part, that was something, the pay part thing reminded me of it, and I just wanted to just make sure.
I just want to make sure that when the dog park goes in. And when I'm not of this mortal coil, that the memorial fire hydrant goes in right in the middle of the dog park.
Has your name on it.
Toronto. So I'm telling you all right now.
His memory of him.
I want the fire hydrant right in the middle.
Would you like to make a motion on Kevin's
Absolutely.
behalf?
Yeah.
Oh.
Statue would be in the middle of town. Big bull.
Did we have that?
Kevin,
So the dog
almost
park.
there, guys, 2 more left.
Yeah, dog park is also on there. We've had many conversations about that, so I will get back into it. And then the last one, I put this on here. Cause this is it's a big one, right? We have this, opportunity to be able to acquire the 2 parcels, at Indian Hill Music, to be able to convert this into a community center. So, this is definitely an area that will allow the department to grow. Previous year on the capital improvement plan, we put in community center with a pool, right? Saying this is coming down the line, like this is something that, we know we need to be able to do. So, if we're able to go this route, it is something that we potentially could move forward with this vision sooner. There is most definitely enough space to be able to put in an outdoor pool should we go that route. And, it would be an amazing facility. We also talked earlier about being able to put pickleball courts in, there to be able to marry up the tennis and pickleball together, which would be phenomenal to have all of that space. And if we were able to have public access, right, to that parking lot, then I think people would feel more comfortable using those tennis courts and feeling like it's a public space rather than like, ugh, I'm on school property. So, that would be a huge sell to be able to, have all that work through. So what that CPC we can't do a CPC request for that, but what a capital request for that would be, I don't know. Cause I think the town is looking at just purchasing that space. But everything is still in a new, beginner state, so there's not
Forgive me,
a whole lot, yes.
I would remove, I haven't been here, but I know we can't use CPC funds for the building,
Right,
but to Saul's point, the design that we spent money on, tennis courts,
Yes.
and everything, could we use that money to build the tennis courts, pickleball courts, and
Yes.
such on the property?
I believe so, yes. But a swimming pool, you cannot use those funds. I know that.
Right.
Yeah. So yes. So there is
So you
possibility.
can take
of
that footprint, and drop it into this footprint, still be able to.
I mean,
I know your question was to develop Cooper.
well, so that's, I mean, developing Cooper, I think is a separate issue. How, and I also, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily something we need to discuss at this point. I'm not sure that having pickleball and tennis in the same place is either necessary or potentially desirable, because then we're really concentrating a ton of activity in one spot. And so,
It's not the worst thing, because one of the things, I'm just saying from our standpoint of being in Department 5,
yeah,
this gives us the ability to run really quality programming at one site and be able to check in and go to the next thing rather than drive all over town.
fair enough. But I think there is. Yeah, I mean, maybe when we're looking at Cooper, that having, you know, maybe it's a soccer field or a playing field, maybe it is pickleball courts, separate from the tennis courts.
Right.
Maybe it's something else. I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah.
Right.
There may be value in having activity. I get it's easy to keep an eye on, but.
Yeah.
Like distributing things around town or.
I hear you. Oh, yeah, I
Than what
know.
we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But. Lots of what happened before things,
I
so.
know. Yeah. So that one, I just put that at the end because I don't know if we're even gonna know enough going into this capital discussion of putting something in for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what the funding mechanism is
Right.
gonna be. There's a lot that, yeah, we're not
But yeah,
sure.
to your point, CPC funds could be used
Yes.
potentially for pickleball courts
Anyway,
at that facility, right? Yeah.
Okay, so with all of those being put out there, any projects that you want to add? Or are there any suggestions on reorganizing priority or changing of importance?
I mean, so is this,
What was the points? Was it 1, 3?
1, 2, yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because
Truck
What
is the
will-
most important.
so truck, yep. And that's why I have this as red, even though it's 7, because we have this new potential, right? That one's a tough one.
I mean,
So these were the 2 that I had as like the most important for this year to request.
I think for this year, and I think we've got to go with what's gonna help us programmatically the quickest, and that may be the truck and the sailboats. I don't know, like, because the community center, I think, is a great idea. But that is gonna be a lot of hoops to jump through, and I know you gotta start somewhere and putting it on there. I think maybe do it as one of the next priority, the second highest. And then concentrate more on what we need sort of in the short term immediately for the highest. That's just my thoughts.
yeah, I mean, in terms of priority, the other thing that I would say, this is for,
It would be fiscal year 24. So that starts July
23.
1, 23. You got it. So this upcoming July.
And the open space and recreation plan and the assessments we expect to have.
Open space takes about, when I did that first original meeting, it takes 15 months. We were at 13 months and now we're probably at like 12. So, the open space plan will take a year to complete. Because
certified by the state, right?
it does have to go to the state, yes. Or accepted, not necessarily certified, but, so there's that, and then the turnaround for the statistically valid community needs assessment theoretically could be, as little as 3 months, once we actually get a contractor to come in. It just depends on how I'll say at the ease that they're getting responses back. Cause the more that they have to like try and like, dig after people, then it could take them a little bit longer. Cause they do have their numbers that they have to meet for it to be statistically valid.
Right. I mean, I guess with those two pieces out there. I'm having a hard time seeing us investing design money
Right. I hear you.
before we have that information. Because the first question that comes up is, well, you've got
What
this
are you
thing
gonna
coming, what is that gonna tell you?
Absolutely.
And so.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, so maybe we have design spending in the second half of FY24.
And I was gonna say, we can always, it doesn't always happen, but you can go to fall town meeting with capital requests as well, if there's funds left over. That is totally acceptable to do.
And I think the needs assessment, if there is a huge outcry for a community center, that then bolsters our position, then we start sort of down that path. But if there's no big,
Well, I think the bigger thing is that more than likely, this building is gonna be purchased and we're gonna go there.
Yes,
So it's not necessarily is there a need for it, but there is a need for it. And if the building gets purchased, then we can't sit in a building and not have funds like we do right now. We're sitting in a place where
we
we
painted it
don't have
ourselves.
funds to do anything with it to make it functional for what we need.
Yeah.
And, that's ultimately what it is. And if you're gonna spend $4.3 million on a building and you're gonna move the department there, and then there needs to be funds available to make that building effective sooner than later.
Where the staff, that we don't have to do all of that work.
So that's the one piece. I would say, like, if that building got built, then to me, the truck gets pulled and that $60,000 becomes monies that's used to renovate and make that facility what it's needed.
So that's why when I have the community center as that 7, right, with the red, that's the how much. Yeah, we don't know enough right now. We just know that there's discussions about it. It makes a lot of sense for the town to purchase this building. And it would be very beneficial overall for the town to have it. So if that happens, what do we make that capital request look like? Is it, funds to be able to make it operational?
are we sure, like, are we just throwing out there that we're gonna move there or you're gonna move there? Because that's right next to the high school. That is definitely gonna need some overflow space because the town is growing, the school is too small. Could they just be like, oh, we're gonna have these satellite, science labs over there instead? Because we all know that,
Well, they are now, Kevin, thanks.
I mean, I'm not that smart, so I'm sure somebody else is thinking about this.
I mean, they're gonna purchase it and then just give it to you.
Yes.
Exactly, like you've got a building that you could maybe, because it is a school and, there are little classrooms all over there. You could potentially put kindergarten and first graders in there temporarily while Shaker Lane is being, rebuilt.
I don't think it's that
It's
big.
not that big.
Yeah.
Or it's big enough that you could, with some minor work, you could, I
You
think,
might get the preschool in there.
Okay, then the preschool, so then the preschool, it's
So-
one less building and one less, group of kids that you have to. So like, I hear you, like, I think that would make a pretty good community center, although it's in a horrible, I think it's in a horrible location. But. There's no guarantee that we're getting,
Yeah.
remember, we're gonna have pickleballs of course until yesterday.
Right,
So,
right.
it's,
I hear you.
and it's the last place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
We haven't got sewer in yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, but if we want to leave it as a priority, that's fine, but I don't know that. There's the appetite for it.
And we have some time, right? This is something, when we looked at that timeline, I do need to put in requests, but if we decide that we're gonna, and all of these requests go in, right? So if we decide what the priority is, we can have that discussion with the finance director, with FinCom, and, select board, all of that stuff during that budget hearing, if that's something that we have decided we do want to change.
I think one of the things that was explained to me very early on when I started this, I believe Stephen Nudie said it, is it's kind of like the placeholder.
Yeah.
'Cause if you just put it on there, then it goes to the back of the line, but it's been on there for 10 years, then, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but it was also at town meeting, they were talking about being fiscally responsible, and we're putting all these things on here that are, big money items, so the town, that whole portion of the meeting was
I know.
referencing for a recession and it to be tighter about spending.
So that's this whole capital process. It's just because you're asking for it doesn't mean you're getting it. It's like. The way that it's supposed to work is that, you get. These projects that are done, money is kind of like shared around, right? You try to keep within that debt limit. But some of the stuff that we've been using capital for in previous years shouldn't necessarily be on there, right? If there is, so for example, we're asking for this replacement of the pickup truck. But we should be able to, with the revolving, put money away so that when the time comes for us to be able to replace that we can do that without asking for capital assistance, right?
It should be a depreciation.
It should be a depreciation schedule, and none of the departments do that. That's just something that hadn't ever been part of the process. So I do believe that is something that Alicia is trying to get us back to operating, or get us towards operating in the place where we're using those funds correctly. So yeah, that's the hope of it. But yeah, we have a lot of projects that cost a lot of money, and that is absolutely the truth.
Yeah, and from a town perspective, I can just see town.
Oh, I know.
Saying that's not needed.
Yeah.
Just.
No, I hear you. No.
Yeah, I think that in terms of the priority and coding, the truck falls in both high priority and seems to be the imperative category.
Yeah.
As much as I would like to see an expanded sailboat fleet, I think maybe that falls more in the essential than the imperative.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah. No, I hear you.
strictly my own opinion. I'm open to be convinced otherwise, and I think the fact that if we're running out of the ability to provide the sailing program because of the condition of the existing boats, then maybe it does move up to the.
We're kind of there.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
If I can't repair at least 3 of those boats, we'll have to cut our numbers by probably close to half for next year.
Okay, so maybe that does move.
Yeah.
The side
I'm-
effect, beach prices.
I could, it'll definitely help float that number.
Somewhere, it's a couple extra bucks, and it's the same thing with the sports fees,
Yeah.
it should just be every year, even if it's $1.
Yep.
Everything else increases.
Yeah, and the other thing is, all you have to say is if they're a danger to a child that's out there, you
Right.
can't.
Right.
Can't put that out there.
Well, that's, I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, yes, I mean, we pull things as soon as they're not able to be used, and right now, we have 6 boats that aren't able to be used.
So it's, yeah, I guess it's probably on the, somewhere in there.
We can keep putting that off. But
I mean,
at some point, it's gonna become red.
yeah,
And when it's red, it's probably too late.
Right.
What is
We
the
can't make
top
everything
on that?
right.
Essentially resurfacing the basketball courts.
Right, like, yeah, how many reds do we get? Like, what's?
You can make them all red if
Yeah, I
it's,
mean,
if
it doesn't even matter, right?
your prerogative. There are criteria.
So it also serves the point that we're making about the fields, right? We don't necessarily have to rely on capital expenses. If we're being responsible and charging the appropriate fees and not shifting things out of different places, in essence, if we charge, basketball user groups and everybody to the point that we just talked about the truck and the van and depreciation, by the time these things need to be resurfaced every 5 years, we should be collecting that money in fees and having that money available, not having to go through capital and waiting to turn it red through capital. We should be able to have a fee structure in place that says, okay, every 5 years, the basketball courts are supposed to be resurfaced, or every 3 years, we're supposed to reline a tennis court. And then rather than shelling out all of this money, you're shelling out, the appropriate amount of money and not doing major repairs because you let them go into disarray. That's where ultimately we're trying to get everything to. A lot of these things shouldn't even be on a capital thing, because the reality is through user fees and proper maintenance, we never get to this point.
Right.
well, like,
Every town struggles with that, though. Like,
but I mean, they should be, well, actually, I don't know enough about municipal finance to know if it matters, but certainly in the corporate world, they should be in the capital because there are reasons to have things as capital versus expense.
Right.
But it doesn't need to be the town's capital budget. It should be our
Right.
self-funded budget.
And that is part of, and you could call it that if you want to, but we're trying to create this reserve so that we are able to do that, so that we can be more fiscally responsible and provide the facilities that we think we should provide. Because it's frustrating to us when you guys have to sit there and, come in on a weekend just to be able to fiberglass boats so that the kids have them to use on Monday. Like, that's stuff that our staff really shouldn't be doing. But we do it because it's necessary. So, if we were able to actually have a surplus and take care of things the way that we should be taking care of them, it would make a lot of things better.
do we have like basketball leagues that go on the basketball courts? And we're not charging them user fees?
We do.
Oh, we charge them the usual $15?
So you hit another one of those lovely little hot button areas. So the little tip hoops, they rent them and they have like scrimmage games and stuff like that during the summertime, and they're awesome. They're really great about it. There are impromptu, maybe way more organized men's leagues,
Mhm.
and they don't pay anything. And we tried to work with them and tried to, but I think they've done it it's always been this way. We're gonna keep it that way.
I think,
Full soccer.
Till they get
So
kicked
just-
out for pickleball.
Yeah, cool. So we just have a bunch of guys who think they can use the course without user fees, and we just let them. Because that's just how.
How are you supposed to hold them accountable to that?
Are those our courts?
Yeah, it's public court, Aaron.
So those are the Saturday morning and Sunday morning guys that are there all the time, and so,
when it's flexible when it's in a gym.
Yeah.
It's the same group that we're charging a
Yes.
fee to utilize the gyms during the winter time. But then it changes when we have to police that, when it's not a facility that's.
So if there was a fence all the way around it, then sure we could, but it's just open to the public, yeah. I'm not gonna like call the police and have them all arrested.
Well, no, but I mean, we're sitting here charging one group and not another, and I'm trying to. And it just sounds like we're getting bullied by a group is what you're making it sound out to be, which is
And
where I'm getting
Yeah,
my question from,
Yeah,
is why are we allowing them to bully us around?
how do you enforce that?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
I don't understand why we're letting people push us around.
Well, how do we?
they're saying that they're just meeting and that they're not paying anybody anything, they're just a group of guys that
happen to be there
happen to
every
be there
Saturday.
playing basketball on Saturday and Sunday.
It's not, so I think the easiest thing is,
Yeah,
it's
for
not
sure.
like,
Court time, don't you?
well. The only thing we require that for, and we just passed that, was the tennis courts for when pickleball took off. We just
And
did
even
that.
then, if there was like a group that wanted to play tennis and the courts weren't reserved, they can play.
Right, so there's no policy in place, is long and the short of it, is there's been no policy that has been acted, so when you go down there now, there's no teeth to it, and it's the same reason that we just did the tennis pickleball thing.
Yeah.
Whenever we
Right.
passed that a couple months ago.
So if we.
Yeah. I think what we have to do, and I know other towns do this, is that, and it would take some cooperation with the police department, is that you can reserve the court whenever you want. And if there's people on there and you say, I have my permit from 9 AM to 10 AM, so my little son or daughter can have their birthday party basketball game from 9 to 10. And those people, whoever it is, are down there and they say, screw, you then say, okay, I'm gonna call the business line and you guys are all getting off the court because there's a lot of questions. Number one is, are they all Littleton residents that are down there playing? And do Littleton residents take precedent? If you reserve that court, hey, I want to have a little basketball game with my friends, I think we need to start, and this can be something we table till to December, but I think maybe we come with a policy where, you don't have to put a fence around, you don't have this, but it's just an enforceable permit that,
Well, that's the way
Hey.
it works now, but it's the enforceable piece.
and that's where
Not
the
there.
cooperation needs to come in.
Well,
Just so that somebody just comes down and very nicely says, hey, I'm sorry.
but there is no, I mean, I don't. If there's no demand for reservations other than
Right.
this group, then it's not gonna change. Unless we decide to schedule some programming there at the time that they like to hold their games.
Or you put a fence up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get, because it's too late to
But
get into
that's
this, but it's
not-
like,
Yeah.
but I
Don't wanna
think
do
that,
That's not what we do.
but I think on the other side of that is if this group of guys comes in and they're there from 8 in to 11 every single Saturday,
Mhm.
then you just don't want to go because you're not going to get on the court. Like, kids are sitting there going, oh, I want to play some pickup basketball with my buddies. But Saturday morning, that court is taken because this group of people are there. And Littleton residents now can't get on that court because there's no pickup game, there's no ability to get on that court
Right.
because, oh yeah, no. And it's not like you're gonna say, hey, I get next, because they're gonna be, oh yeah, kid, screw, this team's playing after this team and these few teams are playing after that. And, I think it's a much bigger discussion and issue, but anyway.
They're all fair points and yeah, we've gone through that and tried to figure out different ways to be able to fund it as well, so, yeah.
I think in summation, it just goes back to everything. These are capital requests and anything that you build, basketball courts, fields, everything else, there needs to be a maintenance plan. Whether that maintenance plan is us just arbitrarily saying that every single year, we're gonna put $2,000 away, knowing that every 3 years we need to resurface the courts.
Right.
Or the answer is we're gonna put X number of dollars away and there's a mandatory user fee that goes with using the courts. those are the things that the policies that need to be established. So that we're not always chasing our tails and figuring out, well, how do we fund this thing?
Right.
Right, anything we build has to have a plan in place, like the rock garden, right? We built that at 300 King and nothing's been done to it, you know, and it's just like, okay, well, what is this, right? There was no maintenance plan, there was no follow through. And
There's
it's
a
just another thing that exists that no one's taking care of.
So that's why I think we should look at things that, you know, they're not new things. Like, let's take care of what we got.
Right.
For a little bit of time, so we can build up that capital,
Couldn't agree
you
with you.
know?
Yeah.
You know, so we need a truck and we need sailboats. Those are two things we're gonna use. It's not new. They're already part of the program. And then anything that's brand new, we push off as a lower priority.
Yeah, I think particularly the design stuff, we're gonna have much more.
Yeah.
I agree with
And
that.
who knows, maybe our $30 user fee will get us design money to build a new soccer field,
That would be awesome.
but
That'd be awesome.
Again, I think that,
That's not gonna happen.
No.
That would be awesome.
just,
yeah, they're right, then for design work and other things, there is funding out there.
Right.
Uh,
And we can use CPC money for some of those, design stuff as well. All right, so
Keep moving.
I,
It's
yeah,
getting late.
all right, so
Yeah,
I
keep
feel
moving.
like I have,
great pictures. Yes.
oh, you're hilarious. You're so funny. No, you guys, you actually have to take one more vote, which seems a bit silly. So I know.
You're voting on.
You're at it.
That's the first line.
Are you voting on
That's my left
headshots?
hand.
Oh,
I just need your headshot.
Just
so I can
headshot.
hang.
no,
I need to update the website and put them on the wall.
I wasn't even gonna mention that. I just put that up there. No, the second one. So back in May, we nominated and voted Aaron in to be the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee representative from the Park Commission. Last month, the select board approved the creation of a new so,
That was
open,
the implementation committee, not the planning committee, right?
well, the original thought was that, yes, I knew this plan was coming up so that he would be that person. Well, because they just created it last month, the nomination is null and void because it didn't exist when we nominated him. So we
I nominate
should
Aaron.
nominate,
I nominate Aaron for the open space and recreation plan committee.
Second that?
you okay with that?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
My goodness. Yes, and then the awesome, fantastic pictures are not showing up.
New business, old business? No?
So no new business, the old business was what we just did. And then,
Congratulations.
well done, sir. Here is gonna pop up. Yay! So we just finished our adult and youth flag football. So these were our champions from last weekend. So the Westies for the adult flag football, and the Chargers won for the youth. And all of our wonderful referee staff up at the top. And this adorable guy, Adrian Fawn, is our MVP of the season for our youth flag. So
Very.
great programs. Those guys do such an amazing job, and they're finishing up cornhole tonight. Yep.
Scott's here.
All right,
You
motion
missed
to
your
adjourn?
cornhole championships?
What's that?
You missed your cornhole championships?
Yeah, I'm signed up for the second half, so,
Okay,
yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
going up the hill.
Looks so much to
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Sorry, it was a long one.